But the world, you see, like, is a vast place.
You know, the continent, we've been able to do some dope stuff. You know?
Dans le rap africain, bien sûr, surtout.
There's the movement of hip-hop, R&B music, house music, all that coming out of not only South Africa, but the continent in general is just amazing right now.
I was surprised how big this scene is in Africa. When I did a tour over there, and the DJ before me played so many hip-hop records and so many Afrobeats, both that I never heard before, but had the club rocking. That is such a huge scene.
C'est le hip-hop en tant que culture ou en tant que musique, si on parle du rap, dans une certaine partie du monde, aux États-Unis peut-être, les gens samplaient du funk, enfin de la musique de chez eux, si tu veux. Nous, on a fait pareil avec les ingrédients de chez nous.
Regardless where you from, you know, it's where you at.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this fine air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from it home. Originated in the 70s in South Bronx of New York City, hip-hop is a cultural movement that includes graffiti, breakdancing, DJing, and of course hip-hop music, rap. The genre was born in response to the socio-economic struggles faced by inner-city youth and drew on a blend of funk, soul, disco music, and later on jazz. Rap, an acronym for rhythm and poetry, started more humbly as MCing, with MCs initially serving as hype men during parties and social gatherings. Over time, they began to develop lyrical raps that reflected the experiences and struggles of their neighborhood communities. Early on, hip-hop was often a form of storytelling, with themes of resilience, self-expression, and social commentary, making it stand out as a rebellious form of expression. The genre grew rapidly in the late 70s and early 80s, with the rise in popularity from the likes of Sugar Hill Gang in the late 70s and Run DMC in the mid-80s, helping the genre cross over into mainstream success in the US. As hip-hop music evolved, it incorporated diverse influences and spawned subgenres like gangsta rap, conscious rap, later on trap, and many more, becoming one of the most influential musical movements worldwide. The Golden Age, or Golden Era, is a name given to a period in mainstream hip-hop produced between the mid-80s and the mid to late 90s, which is characterized by its diversity, quality, innovation, and influence. By blending in with other genres while keeping its core, hip-hop gained popularity within the masses during that time. And around the same time, other artists like LL Cool J and Public Enemy began to gain mainstream attention, solidifying hip-hop as a commercially viable genre. By the late 80s and early 90s, hip-hop's popularity had skyrocketed thanks to the advent of cable television and the rise of platforms like MTV, which began airing hip-hop videos. The genre continued to evolve, with subgenres like gangsta rap and alternative hip-hop emerging. By the mid-90s, hip-hop had become a dominant force in global music culture, influencing not only music, but also fashion, language, and broader cultural trends. Hip-hop began to spread outside of the United States in the early 80s, initially reaching countries in Europe, Africa, and the Caribbean, down across the rest of the world. The genre's global expansion was fueled by the rise of hip-hop's visibility in American media and the predominance of American media in these regions at the time. With channels like MTV and the first international tours of hip-hop dominant faces like Run DMC and the Sugar Hill Gang, the genre grew at a fast pace outside of its borders. In the early 80s, hip-hop made its first major international impact in Europe, particularly in countries like France, Germany, and then the UK, whose influence on the European continent helped spread it further thanks to the black communities in those countries who could relate to that movement. At the same time, and for similar reasons, the hip-hop movement started to gain footing in the motherland, Africa. The emergence of hip-hop in Africa can be traced back to the early 80s, when the genre began to filter into the continent through global media and cultural exchanges. American hip-hop reached African audiences via the spread of radio, television, and cassette tapes, especially in countries with strong cultural ties to the US, such as Senegal, Nigeria, South Africa, and around the same time in other Francophone countries as the genre's influence increased in countries like France. African artists then began to blend traditional rhythms with hip-hop, creating unique regional styles. Overall, the first traces of hip-hop in Africa came through a process of cultural exchange, foreign influences, adaptation, and relatability in terms of rhythm and style, as young African artists and communities shaped the genre to reflect their own experiences and struggles, setting the stage for the vibrant and diverse African hip-hop scenes that would emerge in the following years.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this flat air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from it.
But the world, you see, like, is a vast place.
You know, the continent, we've been able to do some dope stuff. You know?
Dans le rap africain, bien sûr, surtout.
There's the movement of hip-hop, R&B music, house music, all that coming out of not only South Africa, but the continent in general is just amazing right now.
I was surprised how big this scene is in Africa. I did a tour over there, and the DJ before me played so many hip-hop records and so many Afrobeats, both, that I never heard before, but had the club rocking. That is such a huge scene.
Tu sais, le hip-hop, en tant que culture ou en tant que musique, si on parle du rap, dans une certaine partie du monde, aux États-Unis peut-être, les gens samplaient du funk, de la musique de chez eux, si tu veux. Nous, on a fait pareil avec les ingrédients de chez nous.
Regardless where you're from, you know, it's where you at.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this flat air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from it.
The hip-hop journey in Algeria began in the mid-80s, early 90s, influenced by the global spread of hip-hop culture, especially from France, which had a strong cultural connection with Algeria due to its colonial history. Algerian youth in urban areas, particularly in big cities like Alger and Oran, began to embrace hip-hop as a means of expressing their frustrations with economic hardship, political corruption, and social inequality, issues that were deeply felt after the country's independence from France in 1962 and the Civil War of the 90s. In the early years, Francophone rap was particularly influential in Algeria, as many young people were exposed to French rap artists like MC Solar and I.Am. However, Algerian rappers soon began to develop their own distinctive style, blending hip-hop with local musical traditions and languages such as Arabic, Berber, and Darija, a form of Algerian Arabic. During the 90s, hip-hop in Algeria increased in popularity thanks to prominent French rap groups with African and Arabic members, some from Algeria such as Le 113, Sniper, MBS, Hintik, and more. Hip-hop became a tool for Algerian marginalized youth to express their frustration against the state of the country, particularly in the aftermath of the war, which left many young people hopeless with the government and traditional power structures. A well-known example is the youth protest of October 90 against the cost of living, which had prominent rappers like members of the group Hintik voicing up their feelings in music. In the 2000s and 2010s, many Algerian hip-hop artists exported themselves to France, which helped Algerian hip-hop to grow in popularity, with artists like Soul King, Khaled, and L'Algerino gaining national and international recognition. These newer artists mixed hip-hop with rap, a popular Algerian music genre, and reggae principally, creating a fusion that appealed to younger audiences while staying true to their cultural roots. Algerian hip-hop also became a tool for activism, with many rappers using their platform to speak out on societal issues. Today, hip-hop in Algeria remains a powerful form of expression for the youth, with the genre continuing to evolve and influence not only music but also fashion, language, and youth culture in general in Algeria and across the broader Northern African region. The Algerian hip-hop scene includes both native Algerians and Algerians abroad who have contributed much to its popularity, especially in France, where many of them are considered an important part of the French hip-hop scene. However, the local scene is less well known internationally, but despite this fact, it is still among the most developed in Africa and the Arab world. Hip-hop in Egypt began to spawn in the early 90s, influenced by the global spread of the genre in the United States and its popularization in neighboring Arab countries. Different figures started experimenting with hip-hop, but it is difficult to find traces of anything relevant happening for the genre in the country during this decade. In the early 2000s, the rock band K-Rocky, formed in 2003, gained significant recognition for blending hip-hop with rock and other genres, creating a unique sound that resonated with Egyptian youth. The 2010s marked a crucial turning point for Egyptian hip-hop, as the whole country was agitated with the 2011 Egyptian revolution. Rappers became increasingly vocal about local issues and the need for change, using hip-hop as a platform for protest, challenging the government, corruption, censorship, and the suppression of freedoms under Hosni Mubarak's regime. Among the most vocals, we have artists like MC Amin, who gained popularity around that time. The youth-driven revolutionary movement found a natural ally in hip-hop as it became an outlet for expressing dissent and organizing grassroots support. After the revolution, Egyptian hip-hop continued to grow, with a new generation of independent artists emerging, particularly in Cairo, Alexandria, and other urban centers. Hip-hop became a key tool for expressing deception with both the post-revolution military regime and the subsequent instability in the country. New York artists like Marwan Musa, Habi Youssef, and Wakes began to gain recognition with their raw and censored lyrics addressing topics from social inequality to life in modern Egypt. These artists, influenced by trap, often merge hip-hop with electronic and diverse influences, creating a dynamic and evolving scene. Today, Egyptian hip-hop is a thriving scene that continues to reflect the complexities of modern Egyptian society. While a good part of the music remains political and critical of the government, many newer artists are also exploring personal themes such as love, relationships, and social identity. The genre has diversified, with artists incorporating regional sounds, blending traditional Egyptian music with contemporary beats, and experimenting with new styles like trap and drill. The genre's mainstream popularity is evident, with Egyptian rappers being featured in major media outlets and collaborating with artists from across the Arab world and beyond. Hip-hop in Egypt has evolved from a niche subculture into a significant part of the country's cultural fabric, offering a space for expression, social critique, and identity formation. Despite facing challenges and limitations like censorship, it continues to thrive, with young Egyptians using it as a powerful tool for change and creativity. When it comes to Libya, hip-hop has had a more complex and evolving history than other Arab African countries. The genre began to make its way into the country in the late 90s and early 2000s, primarily through the influence of global hip-hop and Arabic language rap from neighboring countries such as Tunisia or Egypt. Young Libyans, especially in urban centers like Tripoli and Benghazi, were introduced to hip-hop through satellite TV channels and other means. At this stage, hip-hop culture was mainly embraced by a small part of the youth as a form of different expression. However, due to the social and cultural context of the country, access to hip-hop and global foreign influence was limited. After 2011, Libya, which had just gone through a revolution, experienced a small pivotal moment for hip-hop in the country. As in other parts of the Arab world, especially during the Arab Spring, hip-hop emerged as a tool for political resistance and youth mobilization. Many young Libyans then began to use rap in that way. At this point, the main voices in Libyan hip-hop were foreign Arab rappers like El General, a Tunisian rapper who talked about oppression and inequalities in his tracks, such as Rais Le Bled, the president of the country, which became an anthem of resistance and rebellion during the Arab Spring, inspiring Libyan artists to express their own grievance and hope for the future. After the fall of Gaddafi and the disillusion of the promises made before the revolution, Libya entered an unprecedented period of instability, with competing factions fighting for power and the country facing ongoing political conflict. Libyan hip-hop artists today continue to use their music to address social and political issues, and the influence from other Arab countries' hip-hop artists is bigger than ever. Locally, not many artists manage to make a name for themselves, let alone live from it. Among the rappers in Libya or from Libya, we can name the US-based rapper Gashi for reference. Moreover, the hip-hop scene in Libya remains relatively small and underground, with a slow or non-existent growth. Hip-hop in Morocco has without a doubt developed into one of the most vibrant scenes on the continent and as one of the most influential in the Arab world. It emerged in the early 90s and has since become a key form of youth expression, blending global hip-hop culture with Morocco's rich musical traditions and social issues. The genre has grown significantly, with artists addressing everything from political unrest to personal identity and struggles for freedom. Like in many other parts of the Arab world, hip-hop was introduced in Morocco through the global spread of American rap and the influence of Francophone rap from neighboring countries, particularly France, where many North Africans had settled. The influence of the French rap scene was particularly strong in Moroccan urban centers like Casablanca, Rabat, and Marrakesh, where young people began to experiment with rapping, DJing, and breakdancing, immersing themselves in the culture. One of the first Moroccan hip-hop groups to gain attention was Casa Crew, formed in Casablanca in the early 90s. They helped establish hip-hop as a recognizable genre in Morocco, incorporating both French and Arabic lyrics into their music. Other early groups followed suit, mixing the global sound of hip-hop with local dialects and Moroccan Nawa music, Rai, and Charabi, creating a distinct Moroccan style. In the 2000s, Moroccan hip-hop began to take on a more explicitly political tone. The Moroccan youth, facing issues like high unemployment, limited political freedom, and social inequality, found in hip-hop a platform for expressing their frustrations. Emerging groups like H-Kane, formed in the late 90s, became known for their politically charged lyrics, addressing issues such as police brutality, government corruption, and the marginalization of the youth in Moroccan society. They, along with other groups from the early 2000s like Fner or a bit later rappers like Don Big, helped establish a socially engaged hip-hop scene. The Arab Spring uprisings that began in 2011 had a profound effect on the hip-hop scene in Morocco. As protests spread across the Arab world, Moroccan rappers began to speak out more boldly against government repression and inequality in the Arab world, expressing their desire for change. In recent years, Moroccan hip-hop has continued to evolve, with a new generation of artists pushing the boundaries of the genre and gaining wider recognition both at home and abroad. Artists such as Shobi and Draganov continue to blend traditional Moroccan sounds with contemporary global styles like trap, drill, and even reggaeton, creating a distinctive hybrid of local and international influences. Also, thanks to a considerable diaspora, a lot of Moroccan artists have internationally proved themselves while being based in foreign countries and have cemented themselves in the most impactful scenes such as French Montana in the US and L'Artiste in France. Hip-hop is really popular in the Moroccan community despite facing many challenges. Several artists have been arrested or faced legal action for their lyrics, particularly those addressing sensitive issues like corruption or the monarchy. In the 2010s and 2020s, Moroccan hip-hop has increasingly gained international attention, and the genre has also become a bridge between Morocco and the broader Arab diaspora, as well as African and European audiences. Artists from Morocco collaborate with international hip-hop stars, further expanding their reach. The fusion of global stars and local influences has made Moroccan hip-hop one of the most innovative and dynamic scenes in the Arab world. The genre is evolving rapidly, embracing elements of Afrobeat, reggaeton, and global trap while staying rooted in Moroccan cultural traditions. When it comes to Sudan, hip-hop is a relatively young but growing movement, emerging in the early 2000s as a response to the political and social challenges faced by Sudanese youth. Like other parts of Africa and the Arab world, Sudanese hip-hop has been shaped by global influences but also infused with local traditions, languages, and the unique socio-political context of Sudan. Sudanese youth were exposed to hip-hop primarily through cable TV and other outlets, where they discovered global hip-hop stars and regional Arab artists. Due to Sudan's strict political climate and cultural conservatism, the genre has struggled to gain mainstream recognition from the get-go. Sudanese hip-hop became more politically engaged after the 2011 South Sudanese independence and the subsequent conflicts in Sudan, particularly in Darfur and the Nuba Mountains. This socio-political crisis, along with ongoing government repression, led many young Sudanese artists to use hip-hop as a platform to address these issues and the challenges of life in a country marked by war and political instability. One of the most defining moments for Sudanese hip-hop came during the 2018-2019 Sudanese Revolution, which saw widespread protests against the regime of Omar al-Bashir, who had ruled the country for nearly 30 years. Hip-hop played a crucial role in this protest, as many artists used their music to rally people to the cause, critique the regime, and express the demands of the people. Arab artists like El General and his music during the Arab Spring were adopted by the Sudanese protesters. Sudanese hip-hop artists used social media platforms to share their messages of resistance and solidarity despite the government's effort to control communication. As of today, it is not easy to measure the importance of hip-hop in Sudan. From an international point of view, the genre is relatively underground and faces a lot of challenges. Local artists do the best they can, but the mainstream artists in Sudan are generally artists from other Arabic countries who have gained popularity in the country by embracing some of their cultural elements or by being relatable to the youth. As for well-known artists originating from Sudan, we can mention Bass or Odyssey. Hip-hop in Tunisia, like much of North Africa, was introduced through the influence of American rap and Francophone hip-hop, that is, hip-hop from France and other French-speaking countries. The genre made its way into Tunisia via cable TV principally, or the internet, where young Tunisians discovered global rap culture. In the early stages, the scene was mostly underground. Tunisian youth, particularly in urban centers like Tunis and Sfax, embraced hip-hop as a way to express their frustrations and create an alternative to the dominant musical styles of the time. Early groups began experimenting with the genre, mixing traditional Arabic sounds with the rhythms and techniques of hip-hop. The 2000s marked a significant shift in the Tunisian hip-hop scene as it began to adopt a more politically charged and socially conscious tone in a Tunisia which faced widespread corruption, censorship, and inequality under Ben Ali's regime. Hip-hop provided a platform for young people to voice their frustrations about the political regime, unemployment, and the lack of freedom of expression. One of the most important figures in this period was El General, a rapper whose politically charged lyrics resonated with Tunisia's delusioned youth, with tracks like Raïs le Bled, which means president of the country, in 2010, which openly criticized Ben Ali's government and was a direct challenge to the regime. The song became an anthem of dissent and played a pivotal role in the Tunisian revolution that began in December 2010. During the revolution, many young Tunisians used rap to articulate their demands for political reform. Hip-hop artists who were once silenced by government censorship became central voices in the public discourse. After the fall of Ben Ali in 2011, Tunisia saw an explosion of creative energy and hip-hop grew in popularity, becoming more mainstream as a form of expression for both political resistance and personal stories. This period also saw the rise of new artists and groups who used hip-hop to address social issues like poverty, unemployment, political instability, like Clay BBJ or Balti, who gained national recognition for their music. The genre's growing influence was further evident as more artists began incorporating trap, reggaeton, and electronic beats, which broadened its appeal. In addition to social and political issues, many Tunisian rappers also explored themes of personal identity, love, and the everyday experiences of young people in Tunisia. The genre helped bridge a gap between different social classes and regions, uniting young people from urban centers with those from more rural areas. Although censorship has loosened in the post-revolutionary period, the government continues to monitor and regulate music that critiques the status quo, especially when it comes to criticizing the Islamist and secular factions in Tunisia's political landscape. Artists still face pressure from various political and religious groups, with some performances being cancelled or blocked by authorities. Hip-hop's often provocative nature, combined with its popularity among youth, makes it a target for censorship. However, the rise of social media and digital platforms has provided artists with alternative channels to distribute their music and reach broader audiences. Today, Tunisian hip-hop is one of the most influential musical genres in North Africa and has begun to gain recognition in the global hip-hop scene. Artists are collaborating with international figures, and the genre's reach is expanding through the reach of internet, contributing to the globalization of Arab and African music. Outside of Tunisia, rappers like Tunisiano or Al Capote, due to their success, have contributed to the expansion of Tunisian rap outside the Arab world. Many younger artists are exploring hybrid genres, blending hip-hop with regional musical styles such as Tunisian folk music and electronic dance music, fusion that has created new possibilities for the genre while maintaining its roots in social and political commentary. Western Sahara is a disputed territory in North Africa that has been at the center of a decades-long conflict between Morocco and the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, SADR. The region of Western Sahara was colonized by Spain until the mid-70s, after which it was claimed by both Morocco and Mauritania. When Mauritania withdrew, Morocco took control of much of the region, leading to the ongoing conflict with the Polisario Front, which seeks independence from the Sahrawi people. The Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic was declared in 1976, but the region remains largely under control of Morocco, with a large Sahrawi diaspora living in refugee camps in Algeria and other countries. The Sahrawi refugees, primarily in the Tindouf camps in Algeria, have long faced a life of displacement, limited resources, and political stagnation. In this context, hip-hop has served as a tool for Sahrawi youth to raise their voices, tell their stories, and engage with global youth culture, while also addressing the very real issues they face, such as the fight for self-determination, cultural preservation, and the daily challenges of life in the camps. Hip-hop began to gain traction in Western Sahara in the early to mid-2000s, influenced by global rap culture, particularly from Morocco, Algeria, and other parts of North Africa. Early artists were drawn to hip-hop's messages of empowerment, resistance, and the genre's ability to express frustration with social and political issues. Artists from the camps made music to empower themselves and their people, and also to bring attention to their cause. However, the reach of Sahrawi hip-hop remains minor internationally. Yet, their music has connected the Sahrawi cause to the global movements for freedom and human rights, while also embracing the wider North African hip-hop culture. Despite the challenges, the refugee camps are home to a vibrant hip-hop community. This underground scene has been crucial in preserving Sahrawi cultural identity, especially in the face of cultural assimilation efforts from Morocco. Sahrawi hip-hop artists have also garnered international attention, creating solidarity links with hip-hop artists in Algeria, Morocco, and also across the Arab world. Also, some Sahrawi artists have performed at few international music festivals, using the global stage to amplify their political messages and make connections with other activists and musicians.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this flat air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from it all.
But the world, you see, like, is a vast place.
You know, the continent, we've been able to do some dope stuff. You know?
Dans le rap africain, bien sûr, surtout.
There's the movement of hip-hop, R&B music, house music, all that coming out of not only South Africa, but the continent in general is just amazing right now.
I was surprised how big this scene is in Africa. I did a tour over there, and the DJ before me played so many hip-hop records and so many Afrobeats, both that I never heard before, but had the club rocking. That is such a huge scene.
Tu sais, le hip-hop, en tant que culture ou en tant que musique, si on parle de rap, dans une certaine partie du monde, aux États-Unis peut-être, les gens samplaient du funk, enfin de la musique de chez eux, si tu veux. Nous, on a fait pareil avec les ingrédients de chez nous.
Regardless where you're from, you know, it's where you at.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this flat air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from it all.
Hip-hop in Benin has grown into an influential cultural and musical movement, reflecting both global influences and the country's unique social and political realities. While hip-hop's roots in Benin trace back to the late 90s, the genre has steadily gained popularity, particularly among the youth, and has evolved into a platform for social commentary, political expression, and cultural pride. The rise of rap culture in urban centers, especially in the capital city Porto Novo and Cotonou, played a significant role in establishing hip-hop in the country. In the early days, Beninese hip-hop artists were largely influenced by Francophone rap, as well as Afrobeat and traditional African rhythms. Early notable figures emerged from the 2000s and included artists like Dibidobo, who helped lay the groundwork for the growth of hip-hop culture in the country. Artists in the same lane incorporated both French and Fon, a local language, in their lyrics, blending their African roots with global influences. By the mid-2000s, hip-hop in Benin began to take on a more politically charged tone. As in other parts of West Africa, artists started to use their music to comment on local issues, question authority, and call for social change. The genre's ability to address political and societal challenges in a direct, unfiltered way made it particularly resonant with Benin's youth. By the 2010s, hip-hop in Benin had become more commercial, with artists gaining greater recognition not only within the country but also across West Africa and the diaspora. More artists began to incorporate diverse influences, West African influences, and sometimes Caribbean, coupled with the existing sound, giving Benin hip-hop a more vibrant sound overall. The music became more festive and entertaining, and artists who surfed on that wave were the likes of Vano Baby, Blaz, and crews like Cotonou City Crew. Despite its growing popularity, the Beninese hip-hop scene still faces significant challenges. The music industry infrastructure in Benin is relatively underdeveloped, and many hip-hop artists struggle with limited access to professional recording studios, production resources, and distribution channels. It's not uncommon for them to export themselves in neighboring countries to promote their music. Additionally, while there has been a rise in hip-hop events and festivals in Benin, there remains a lack of significant commercial support for the genre. This makes it difficult for many hip-hop artists to turn their passion into a full-time career, forcing many to seek alternative means of income outside of music. Hip-hop in Burkina Faso has emerged as a significant cultural movement over the past few decades, evolving from a relatively underground scene to a mainstream genre that resonates deeply with the country's youth. Reflecting the political, social, and economic struggles of the Burkinabe people, hip-hop has become a vehicle for self-expression and social critique, with local artists often addressing issues such as corruption, poverty, inequality, and freedom of speech. The roots of hip-hop in Burkina Faso can be traced back to the 90s, when global hip-hop culture began to infiltrate West Africa. As in other African countries, the spread of hip-hop came through international media, which exposed Burkinabe youth to the sounds of American rap, as well as Francophone language rap from neighboring countries like Côte d'Ivoire and Mali, which still have an important influence in the mainstream music of the country. During the early stages, hip-hop in Burkina Faso was primarily an urban youth movement. Early artists often rapped in French or Moure, one of the country's major indigenous languages, and began using hip-hop as a way to address both global themes like oppression and local issues like corruption and unemployment. As Burkina Faso hip-hop movement was closely tied to its struggle for freedom of expression and democratic rights, slam, a spoken word poetry-based form of hip-hop, also gained prominence in the country during this time, and during the same time, artists like Smokey became well known for their politically charged lyrics. One of the most notable moments for Burkina Faso hip-hop was the 2014 revolution that led to the ousting of Compaoré. Hip-hop played an important role in the anti-government protest, with rappers and other musicians using their lyrics to galvanize young people and criticize the long-standing regime. Since the revolution, the genre has expanded beyond its political roots to encompass a wide range of themes, including love, youth identity, social issues, and personal empowerment. Various hip-hop events and festivals have sprung up throughout the country, with events like Waga Hip Hop Festival providing opportunities for both established and emerging artists to showcase their talents. These events have also helped to professionalize the hip-hop industry in Burkina Faso, opening up new opportunities for artists and helping to develop the local music economy. Despite its growth, Burkinabe hip-hop faces challenges common to many African music scenes, including a lack of infrastructure, financial support, and professional networks for artists. Overall, the Burkinabe hip-hop scene remains local and has yet to expand itself out of the country. However, the genre is well established in Burkina Faso and set for growth. When it comes to Cape Verde, hip-hop has evolved into a powerful form of artistic expression that blends global hip-hop influences with the country's rich cultural heritage. While Cape Verde is a small archipelago off the coast of West Africa, it has developed a distinctive hip-hop scene that reflects the unique history, identity, and social issues of the country. From the early days of the genre's introduction in the 90s to its current role as a tool for social commentary and cultural pride, hip-hop in Cape Verde has become an integral part of the country's youth culture and a significant part of its musical landscape. Initially, hip-hop in Cape Verde was primarily influenced by the East and West Coast rap scenes, as well as francophone rap from French-speaking African countries, especially Senegal and Ivory Coast. In the early days, Cape Verdean hip-hop was mostly focused on entertainment and a way for youth to emulate the global hip-hop culture. However, as the genre developed, Cape Verdean artists began to add their own cultural flair, incorporating elements of Morna, the melancholic genre native to Cape Verde, Funana, and other traditional music styles, creating a fusion that is distinctly Cape Verdean. By the 2000s, as the country faced challenges such as youth unemployment, economic inequality, and migration, Cape Verdean hip-hop artists began using their music to speak out about the struggles of everyday life. As the years progressed and the genre established itself, many artists managed to make a name for themselves, like Julinho KST, a rapper known for tackling topics as identity and sense of belonging, due to the fact that many Cape Verdean in general often live in foreign countries like Portugal, for example, due to the historical context. Cape Verde's significant diaspora, particularly in countries like Portugal, the US, and France, has greatly influenced the development of hip-hop in the country. Many Cape Verdean artists have lived or have family in these countries, and their music reflects the complex experience of being part of both the African and diasporic communities. Migration and the experience of displacement are recurring themes in Cape Verdean hip-hop, as many youth face the dilemma of living in a small remote nation while dealing with the pressures of migration and globalization. Additionally, to the local sounds, some artists have incorporated reggae and Afrobeat influences, further broadening the scope of Cape Verdean hip-hop and expanding its appeal to international audiences. The genre has thus evolved into a cross-cultural platform, blending global sounds with Cape Verde's unique linguistic and cultural heritage. In recent years, Cape Verdean hip-hop has continued to evolve but still remain underground. However, the genre's increasing popularity and global reach combined with the country's dynamic youth culture suggest a bright future for Cape Verdean hip-hop. Hip-hop in the Gambia has become a significant part of the country's youth culture and musical landscape. Despite the Gambia being a small West African country, hip-hop has grown steadily since its introduction in the 90s. The genre in the Gambia is unique in how it blends American hip-hop influences and later on French rap, Senegalese rap, and Nigerian hip-hop, giving the linguistic and cultural ties between the countries with the country's rich cultural heritage. In the early stages, Gambian hip-hop was heavily influenced by American trap and gangsta rap, with local artists emulating these international styles, performing in English or local languages like Wolof, which is widely spoken in the Gambia. The genre resonated with the country's youth, who are seeking an outlet to voice their frustrations with social inequality, limited opportunities, and the struggles of daily life. The first Gambian rap group was Black Nature, founded in 1995. Other early groups and artists were Masla B, The Fugitives, The Born Africans, and many others who were also known for mixing hip-hop with reggae, mbalax, salsa, dancehall, and other genres of music, which led to the development of a distinct sound. The first award ceremony to promote and celebrate Gambian hip-hop artists was the Rap Award 99 ceremony on the 31st of July 1999. Now, there are various award ceremonies held to promote Gambian artists in the music industry. By the mid-2000s, hip-hop in the Gambia began to take on a more distant local flavor. Artists started to incorporate traditional Gambian sounds, drum patterns, and storytelling techniques into their music. Rappers like Killa Ace and ST The Gambian Dream emerged during this period, gaining popularity for their lyrical skills and their ability to address Gambian social issues in their music. Like many other African countries, hip-hop in the Gambia has become an important vehicle for political activism, especially during the rule of President Yahya Jammeh from 1994 to 2017, whose regime was marked by authoritarian rule, human rights abuse, and political oppression. The Gambian diaspora, especially in places like the US and the UK, has also played a significant role in shaping the country's hip-hop scene. A rapper like Passalieu is a good example of this diaspora contributing to put the country on the map. The Gambian hip-hop scene is not that big and professional, but its future looks promising as its main actor also promotes entrepreneurialism, with artists increasingly taking on roles as music producers, videographers, and event organizers, helping to create a local music industry. Hip-hop festivals and battle events have become important aspects of youth culture, creating a space for young people to showcase their talents and connect with like-minded individuals. It's in the early 90s that hip-hop first made its way to Ghana, primarily through American hip-hop culture and media. Global hip-hop icons from the Golden Age era were adopted by the locals. Thanks to that influence, as well as hip-hop from the UK and French-speaking West Africa, like Senegal, young Ghanaians were drawn to the genre and started experimenting with it. The youth, especially in the capital Accra, started forming rap crews and participating in battle rap competitions, performing in English and local languages like Twi. By the 2000s, hip-hop in Ghana began to grow into a more prominent genre within the local music scene. Festivals like the Charlie Wood Street Art Festival were a means by which the culture was made widespread, and awards like the Vodafone Ghana Music Awards helped solidifying its position in the culture. Influential artists like Reggie Rockstone, MZ Bell, Obrafour, Kwa Kese, and Sarkodie played a key role in the development and popularization of hip-hop in Ghana. These artists began incorporating local elements like Ghanaian rhythms and highlife, which led to hip life, a genre that blends high life and hip-hop, creating a distinctly Ghanaian version of hip-hop that took over the Ghanaian music scene. While hip life continued to dominate the mainstream, traditional hip-hop artists in Ghana maintained their focus on lyrical content and social commentary. Hip-hop in Ghana, like in many other parts of the world, has been a vehicle for social commentary and political activism. The 2000s and 2010s saw the emergence of politically conscious rap that tackled issues directly affecting Ghanaian society despite the music keeping a festive ambience. Successes of Ghanaian hip-hop artists like Sarkodie also helped elevate Ghanaian hip-hop onto the international stage with collaborations with artists from the US, Nigeria, or the UK. The Ghanaian diaspora, especially in North America and Europe, has played a crucial role in the development of Ghanaian hip-hop. Many Ghanaian artists have spent time abroad or have ties to the diaspora, which has exposed them to international hip-hop trends while giving them the opportunity to influence global audiences. International artists with Ghanaian roots, like Stormzy, do not hesitate to claim their cultural origins, giving more credits to the country musically. The genre has also seen a growing global presence with African American and Afro-Caribbean artists collaborating with Ghanaian hip-hop artists, helping to foster a more diverse and international exchange of ideas. In recent years, Ghanaian hip-hop has continued to evolve, with a new generation of artists pushing the genre into new directions. Young artists like Medical, Kwesi Arthur, EL, and more recently Black Sherif have brought fresh sounds blending trap, Afrobeats, and Afropop influences with hip-hop. Despite its growing popularity, Ghanaian hip-hop still faces several challenges. Common obstacles are linked to the industry not making it easy for upcoming talent to establish themselves, and internal problems among its main actors. Additionally, the broader music industry in Ghana is heavily dominated by highlife, Afrobeats, and hip life, which can sometimes overshadow hip-hop in mainstream media and public events. Hip-hop reached Guinea around the mid to late 90s. Like many parts of West Africa, Guinea's youth were quickly drawn to American rap, as well as Francophone rap from countries like Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, and France. The genres resonated with young Guineans, many of whom were facing similar issues than the ones from the records they would hear. Guinea's early hip-hop scene was largely underground. Young people in the capital, Conakry, and other urban areas began forming rap groups and started performing in local communities. These performances were primarily in French and local languages like Susu, Fulani, and Malinke, blending global hip-hop styles with traditional Guinean musical elements. By the 2000s, hip-hop in Guinea became a powerful means of social and political commentary. Guinea's youth, frustrated with the lack of opportunity and the political instability under the regime of Lansana Conté, who ruled from 1984 until his death in 2008, found hip-hop to be an effective platform for protest and self-expression. Hip-hop culture in Guinea has also led to the rise of graffiti, dance, street art and fashion, which have become integral parts of the broader youth culture in urban centers like Conakry. Despite the local scene not being internationally recognized, the local hip-hop scene in Guinea is definitely present and vibrant. The diaspora has played an important role in the development of hip-hop in Guinea by giving the country its most notable ambassadors as Black M from the French group Section d'Assaut, the controversial artist MHD credited for popularizing Afro-trap in France, and most recently Gazo, who's a pioneer of drill music in France. Despite hip-hop being a decently popular genre in Guinea, particularly among young people, the local scene remains relatively small and its impact minor. Hip-hop in Guinea-Bissau is a relatively underexplored but growing music movement. Hip-hop began to take root in Guinea-Bissau in the late 90s and early 2000s, as it did in many African countries through the influence of global hip-hop culture and the rise of American rap, as well as the rise of African hip-hop from French-speaking countries. At first, much of the hip-hop scene in Guinea-Bissau was shaped by the young people in the capital, Bissau, who began performing in Portuguese and local languages like Balenta, Fula, and Mandinka. Young Guineans used their music to speak out about youth, disenfranchisement, and social issues, but also used hip-hop in a rebellious way, standing out as outcasts in a society which doesn't always tend to their needs. Rappers from Guinea-Bissau still struggle to break into the mainstream both nationally and internationally. Among the few who managed to make a name for themselves in a way or another, we can name rappers like Scientista Realista and FBMJP, who for the most part can be considered as activists with the pen. Hip-hop in Guinea-Bissau faces several challenges, including limited infrastructure, economic and political instability, and lack of industry support. Hip-hop in Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire, is one of the most influential and dynamic scenes in West Africa and Africa as a whole. Hip-hop first arrived in Ivory Coast in the early 80s, influenced largely by American rap and the growing African hip-hop movement. Early Ivorian hip-hop artists and groups were inspired by American rappers as well as the growing African scene that started to spawn early on. Firstly popular in urban centers like Abidjan, it is no wonder that the first Ivorian crew were able to trace back on the ACB, Abidjan City Breakers, created in the same lane as other crews from countries who fell in love with hip-hop as early as Côte d'Ivoire did, like the Senegalese City Breakers and the Cape Town City Breakers. We'll get back to it. With their first album, ACB Rap, the crew became one of the first active bands on the continent. With a heavy influence from the West, the record didn't get much applause with the Ivorian youth who was not used to that type of sound and couldn't relate as it didn't reflect the realities of Ivorian hoods. In the early 90s, a group called RAS came into the scene and became more popular than their predecessors by being a better representation of realities faced by most young Ivorians. And then, many other groups gained traction following the same lane. Despite this success in the 90s, hip-hop in Ivory Coast was far from being the main genre in a country much like Ghana, with a rich diversity of original musical genres, Zouglou, Coupé-Décalé, etc. In the 2000s, many artists managed to become and stay relevant, among whom the female rapper Nash, who made full use of Nushi, the local slang, and got recognized by that. We have to wait until 2010 and the advent of Kif No Beat to see hip-hop music in Ivory Coast dominating the charts and entering its golden era. During most of this decade, the group, which is one, if not the biggest on the continent, kept improving and piling one success after another, reaching not only the whole of Ivory Coast, but the French rap scene, that is, all francophone countries in Africa, and gaining traction in Europe like Belgium and France, but also Anglophone countries such as Nigeria, Ghana, or even South Africa, as well as many others around the continent. Their music reached directly or through remixes from local artists from other countries. In the same lane, many other Ivorian artists spawned in that decade, which contributed of calling this period the golden age of rap ivoire. Such other artists include the like of Suspect 95, or other artists from the collective Kif No Beat was part of, E13. Many producers also made a name for themselves, such as Shadow Chris or Tamsir. The music that is produced from this period until today is more festive than anything, reflecting the general mood of Ivorian people. Today, the scene is still remaining strong and is in constant evolution with the sound constantly changing. From the fusions with Zouglou and Coupé Décalé spawned another subgenre called Maïmouna, which is a type of unserious funny rap popular in the country and abroad. Despite a scene with many talents and successful artists, the main face of rap ivoire is Didi B, leader of the group Kif No Beat, who, after members of the group decided to push their solo careers, kept reaching new grounds one after another. He might be one of the most successful rap artists based on the continent, if not the one, due to his continental and also international recognition in Europe and the global French rap scene. Also, Ivory Coast benefits from a strong diaspora abroad, with many who managed to become forces to be reckoned with, and even pioneers like Caris, a French rapper originally from Ivory Coast, who popularized trap music in France. Hip-hop started to take root in Liberia during the late 80s to mid-90s. Due to its tight cultural ties, American hip-hop culture was welcomed by the Liberian youth, and it wasn't long until they started experimenting with it. During the 90s, probably influenced by the growing African hip-hop movement, Liberia's hip-hop began to implement more local elements such as language, accent, and mostly the use of the Kolokwa dialect, which is at first Liberian slang but became the most popular vernacular language in the country. This blend gave birth to hipco, which is until today the name of Liberian hip-hop, and its evolution through the years made it an interesting subgenre of hip-hop music and a unique style on its own. In the early days, the genre served as a form of youth rebellion, as it did across much of Africa, offering a means of self-expression in a country recovering from the horrors of civil war, 1803, and facing political instability and economic hardship. As hip-hop continued to spread across Liberia, several artists began to emerge as prominent figures within the scene. These artists not only contributed to the genre's development, but also used their platform to raise awareness about the social and political issues of Liberia. Takunje, one of the most recognized names in Liberian hip-hop, became known for his politically charged lyrics and his advocacy for social justice. MC Caro, another influential figure in Liberia's hip-hop scene, is known for being one of the few female artists in the country's hip-hop movement. Hipco is deeply influenced by the country's post-war context. The genre has served as an important means for youth to voice their critiques of the system. These critiques are often directed at both government officials and international bodies that have been involved in the country's post-war reconstruction. Despite the growing popularity of hip-hop in Liberia, hipco, the genre faces several challenges that hinder its broader development, as a relatively non-efficient industry and the lack of royalties also hurt the revenue streams of musicians. Despite the efforts of its artists and different attempts of continental and international recognition, hipco is at this day a relatively minor actor of the hip-hop culture in West Africa. A country with a strong oral tradition, like many around it, due to its griots, Mali has through the years been rich of different rhythms and expressions. The use of drums and high-paced beat has always been present and has given the country a real unique musical identity. When hip-hop first started to come to Africa and implemented itself in countries like Senegal or Côte d'Ivoire, it was predictable that the cultural movement will also reach Mali in the 80s. However, the journey of hip-hop in Mali hasn't been an easy road. Early on, the first Malians to adopt the genre were not quite positively looked upon. Like in Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, or other countries with early access to hip-hop, the first hip-hop artists and faces of the movement were coming from favorable social environments, explaining their early access to international trends and movements in general. Therefore, The message and music did not necessarily reach the most part of Malian youth who didn't have the same background, plus they were seeing the first hip-hop enthusiasts as wannabes American or Europeans. In the early 90s, as the culture evolved, a few Malian hip-hop heads started to make a name for themselves, such as the group Sofa, who was the first one to air on national television, followed by other groups as Mel Grove and artists like Hamkoulel. As the years progressed, and with the incorporation of more local elements like the Bambara language, as well as local rhythm and themes, the Malian hip-hop movement started to gain more ground on the youth. As we come to the early 2000s, Malian hip-hop take a more serious tone with artists adopting a more moral message, tackling issues and hope. Among the ones who managed to make a name for themselves, we have the group Tata Pound. The Malian hip-hop scene kept progressing at a reasonable pace until the 2010s, with the emergence of more production houses and artists who didn't hesitate to experiment with other influences and differentiate themselves from what Malian rap became sonically. In that lane, we can name the likes of Hibawan and others. During this period, hip-hop in Mali became really popular and managed to outshine well-established genres in massive events. As of today, the Malian scene remains solid despite having many shortcomings, with hip-hop artists struggling to make a living out of their craft for the most part. The combination of traditional music and hip-hop gives Mali a unique voice in the global hip-hop scene. Most people remain positive about the evolution of hip-hop in Mali, while a few others have a more pessimistic expectation, thinking that the best is already beyond them.
Hip-hop came in Mauritania in the late 90s and early 2000s, influenced by global American rap and the growing African hip-hop movement. The genre was introduced through media diffusion of hip-hop records from overseas, particularly from nearby countries like Senegal and Morocco. Mauritanians in areas like Nouakchott, the capital, and other big cities were exposed to the cultural revolution that hip-hop represented and began experimenting with it, incorporating local languages such as Hassaniya, a variety of Arabic spoken in Mauritania, Wolof, and Pula into their lyrics. The complexity of Mauritanian identity, which is shaped by a mix of Arab and African heritage, sensitive themes like modern-day slavery, as despite the fact that slavery was abolished in Mauritania in 1981, there are still traces of this period in today's Mauritanian society, where, among other themes, particularly tackled for these young Mauritanian hip-hop enthusiasts. Hip-hop hasn't grown immensely in Mauritania during the years, thanks to issues like censorship from the authorities or a global lack of means. Hip-hop in Mauritania is still a relatively new and evolving cultural movement, but it has already become an important local medium for young people to express their frustrations, hopes, and desire for change. Mauritanian hip-hop is shaping a distinct voice within the larger African hip-hop scene, and we will keep an eye on its evolution. In Niger, hip-hop emerged in the mid-90s. Reaching the country as the popularity of the genre was increasing worldwide, it reached Niger and resonated with a part of its youth. During the mid-90s, pioneering groups like Todd One, Massacre, and Homeboys were followed by La Kalkani, Kaiden Gaskia, Osika, Wangari, Kamikaze, and Georgie, who gained popularity between 94 and 95 in the country. The genre is a mix of various languages spoken in Niger, mostly the Hausa and German, coupled with French and English. The sample music is usually upbeat, mixed with traditional local music and energetic dance styles, influenced by French, American, and West African hip-hop, especially from Côte d'Ivoire. The hip-hop scene in Niger was moderately launched and then popularized nationally. It gained massive popularity through radio broadcasts and concerts. Dissatisfied young Nigerians used this genre to express their anger about issues like forced marriage, child slavery, corruption, AIDS, and poverty. Local recordings were sold in cassette and CD formats. The first known album in the genre was La Voix du Ténéré by La Kalkani, released in 2000, but it is said that many records were already circulating. The early 2000s marked a booming time in Nigerian rap. The numerous groups from the 90s inspired many, and hip-hop gained in popularity in the country. Despite its popularity, the conditions were not ideal for a stable scene, and hip-hop in Niger hasn't been able to establish itself. Many artists are inconsistent due to lack of means. Despite these issues, hip-hop remains to date a very popular genre in the country with several events to keep the culture alive. Hip-hop began to take root in Nigeria in the early 90s, largely through the influence of American rap and the growing African hip-hop movement. Nigerians were introduced to the genre through global media of all types and music TV channels like MTV and Channel O. US artists from the 90s served as major influences on Nigerian youth, drawing many into the hip-hop culture. The hip-hop movement in Nigeria was at first largely centered around cities like Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt, where youth culture was rapidly evolving. Early Nigerian hip-hop artists from the late 90s to early 2000s, such as Tribesmen and Mode 9, began to blend American hip-hop styles with local Nigerian languages such as Pidgin, English, Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. In the early 2000s, hip-hop in Nigeria began to emerge as a mainstream genre. It played a key role in the evolution of the Nigerian music industry, particularly with the rise of Afrobeats, a genre that combines traditional African rhythms with modern hip-hop, funk, jazz, and dancehall influences. This fusion of Afrobeat and hip-hop resulted in the emergence of new, commercially successful styles of music that helped define Nigerian urban music. The 2000s and early 2010s marked the rise of many Nigerian hip-hop artists who managed to become relevant in a country with a great musical diversity. We can name the likes of M.I. Abaga, credited with bringing Nigerian hip-hop into the mainstream thanks to his success in the mid-2000s. Nate Osei, known for his blend of Afrobeat with hip-hop. Olamide, although Olamide is often categorized as an Afrobeat artist, his hip-hop roots are undeniable. Phyno, for his blend of local culture with global trends. Nigerian hip-hop, like much of African rap, addresses a variety of social, political, and personal issues, while reflecting the complexities of Nigerian life. Much like hip-hop in the United States, Nigerian rap also reflects the experiences of the urban youth, the struggles with poverty, crime, and the quest for success. Artists often discuss life on the streets, the desire to escape poverty, and the challenges faced by youth in Nigeria's urban centers. The Nigerian hip-hop music, despite sometimes the seriousness of the themes, remain mainly hyped and festive. Also, thanks to his immense diaspora, artists from Nigerian origins made impact all over the world, particularly in English-speaking countries like the US and the UK. We think of the likes of Skepta and Dave, to name a few. The Nigerian hip-hop scene is still evolving and is currently one of the most popular on the continent. Despite facing a few setbacks and a lot of criticism like the lack of substance as it is constantly decreasing through the years, hip-hop artists adjust their sound quality to popular genres like Afrobeats to commercialize their craft, which is not always seen from a keen eye. The influence of other genres also limit hip-hop reach in Nigeria, yet the scene is still growing with new artists popping up and going mainstream on a regular basis. Hip-hop in Nigeria has evolved from a subculture in the 90s to a mainstream musical force. The genre has shaped youth culture and reflected the aspirations and challenges of Nigerian society. From social activism to party anthems, Nigerian hip-hop encompasses a wide range of themes and styles, making it one of the most diverse and influential hip-hop scenes in Africa. As Nigerian hip-hop continues to innovate and collaborate with artists around the world, it is poised to remain a key player in global music culture. Hip-hop made its way to Senegal in the early to mid-80s, making it one of the first African countries to be hit by the hip-hop movement. The early days of Senegalese hip-hop were marked by the influence of American rap pioneers such as Run DMC, KRS-One, and Public Enemy. In the early days, several groups like the Senegalese City Breakers started forming around Dakar mainly and then spread over the country. As young Senegalese kept experimenting with the genre, they went from reproducing American hip-hop by blending it into something more relatable to their people with the integration of local sounds and languages, that is the Wolof language, the most widely spoken language in Senegal. In the 90s, hip-hop began to take hold as a prominent genre in Senegal, coinciding with the rise of globalized African youth culture and the growing importance of radio and TV stations in distributing music. This was the period when Senegalese artists started gaining recognition both locally and internationally, particularly in the West African and Francophone hip-hop scenes. We can name Positive Black Soul, formed in the late 80s, which is one of the most influential hip-hop groups in Senegal. PBS is often credited with helping to establish hip-hop as the dominant genre in the country. MC Solar, a pioneer in the French rap scene, was his root from Senegal and logically resonated with the youth there. Dara J, a duo, was known for their powerful and political lyrics, advocating for African pride and the empowerment of youth. Xuman, an influential solo artist who made empowering music for the Senegalese youth. Themes tackled by hip-hop in Senegal, especially during its early stages, are political activism and social critique. In a country where politics and social issues are central to daily life, Senegalese hip-hop artists have used their platform to address topics such as youth unemployment and poverty, political corruption also present in the country, violence in some hoods and regions of Senegal, cultural pride and African identity. Nowadays, the themes are more varied, but the hip-hop in Senegal kept its original roots. Another thing that makes rap from Senegal distinct is the use of mixed languages of Wolof, French, and even English that has become common, allowing artists to appeal to both local audiences and international community. Today, while Senegalese hip-hop has experienced considerable success, it has also faced and continues to face a few challenges, such as limitations due to minor censorship from artists openly criticizing the authorities, an industry not that developed considering its history, fears of commercialization as artists focus on appealing more to the masses. It dilutes the original message of hip-hop in the country, and it is a debate that currently keeps the hip-hop enthusiasts in Senegal preoccupied. Also, other issues like piracy remains a problem in the country, with illegal distribution of music affecting the ability of artists to earn revenue from their work. Senegal is seen as a pioneer in the development of African hip-hop, and its artists have inspired and collaborated with artists from across the continent and beyond. Senegal has also become a key player in the broader Francophone hip-hop community, with artists from France, Belgium, and other French-speaking African countries frequently collaborating with Senegalese rappers. Its diaspora also had an impact at different periods of time, with the likes of the singer Akon, who became known worldwide, and more recently the collective 667 and its leader, the controversial rapper Freeze Corleone, who made big waves in the Francophone hip-hop scene. Hip-hop in Senegal is a cultural movement and a powerful tool for social change. From its roots in the 80s as a pioneer in Africa to its current role in shaping political discourse, youth identity, and social issues, Senegalese hip-hop remains a dynamic and influential force in the global music scene. With its unique blend of traditional African elements and global rap influences, the genre continues to evolve and reflect the aspirations of Senegal's youth. Sierra Leone, like many African nations, was exposed to the global spread of hip-hop during the 90s via TV, radio, and media outlets from the time. Some young people, especially in the capital Freetown, began to embrace hip-hop as a form of self-expression and a way to reflect on the challenges they were experiencing. Hip-hop in Sierra Leone was more of a subcultural phenomenon among urban youth and stayed that way during the decade. The Sierra Leone Civil War from 1991 to 2002 played a significant role in shaping the content of hip-hop music, as many artists used the genre to express their frustrations with the violence and displacement caused by the war. After the end of the Civil War in 2002, Sierra Leone entered a period of reconstruction and renewal, and hip-hop began to flourish as a key part of the cultural landscape thanks to the post-war generation who found in hip-hop a form of culture to relate to. In that spirit, the early 2000s saw the rise of several Sierra Leonean hip-hop artists, including Emerson and K-Man, who gained popularity for their distinct styles, which included singing and African rhythm, for some with incorporation of local languages like Creole, the lingua franca of Sierra Leone, into their rap. They used hip-hop as a way to tell stories about life in post-war Sierra Leone, often addressing topics like poverty, youth unemployment, and the struggles of daily life. Over the years, the hip-hop in Sierra Leone differentiated itself from the US, who was still the main sonic influence. Sierra Leonean artists infused their music with local instruments like the balafon, a type of xylophone, and traditional drumming, West African musical traditions, creating a distinctive fusion of hip-hop. As the years progressed and the country was getting back on its feet, the themes tackled by the Sierra Leonean scene were still similar to the ones from the early 2000s, but with a focus on unity, national pride, and global issues like globalization and African unity. Except for the previous ones, other artists made an impact in Sierra Leone hip-hop, including Kao Denaro, considered by many as the most successful. Today, while Sierra Leone's hip-hop is still developing, the genre serves as a powerful tool of expression, social commentary, and activism. It allows young people to voice their frustrations, reflect on their country's history, and envision a better future. Despite challenges, the genre has become a central part of the country's cultural identity and is helping to shape the social and political discourse in the post-war era. With an active local scene, the future of hip-hop in the country looks promising, especially as the next generation of artists continues to build on its legacy. Hip-hop first made its way to Togo in the early 90s, following the global spread of rap music from the United States and in other francophone countries. Like many other African countries, young people in Togo were drawn to hip-hop through the influence of American rap and the growth of the African hip-hop movement. The genre quickly found a receptive audience, especially in the capital, Lomé, where the urban youth sought a new cultural voice that reflected their experiences. Early Togolese rappers typically performed in French, replicating the ways of the ones who influenced them. As young Togolese kept experimenting, they also began incorporating local languages such as Ewe and Kabylie, which reflected the linguistic diversity of Togo. The 2000s saw the rise of Togolese hip-hop as a more distinct genre within the country's music scene. The growth of local talents, alongside with a growing interest for the genre in the country, helped establish a more structured music industry in Togo. Local radio stations like Radio Nana FM and TV channels played a major role in promoting local hip-hop music and helped distribute it, giving Togolese artists greater exposure and connecting them with fans across the country. With their music, Togolese hip-hop artists talked about identity, struggle, and resilience among other topics. As we progressed to the 2010s, Togolese music became more influenced by its neighbors from West Africa, particularly Ivory Coast, and started developing similar sounds. Over the years, several Togolese artists made an impact on the scene, such as Lom Vance, a notable artist in the Togolese hip-hop community, and Ghetto V, who was appreciated from the locals. The Togolese diaspora also made an impact, as a rapper like Ateyaba, who doesn't hesitate to claim his Togolese heritage, is a pioneer of new school hip-hop in France and francophone hip-hop. Nevertheless, it is safe to say that the most accomplished rappers out of Togo is the duo Toufan, who managed to conquer the local and international public with their festive music and catchy lyrics, becoming a reference in Africa. Hip-hop in Togo is a dynamic and growing cultural force with room for growth. While the genre is still developing compared to other African countries, it has gained significant traction in the country and is continuing to do so.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this flat air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from me.
But the world, you see, like, is a vast place.
You know, the continent, we've been able to do some dope stuff.
Dans le rap africain, bien sûr, surtout.
There's the movement of hip-hop, R&B music, house music, all that coming out of not only South Africa, but the continent in general is just amazing right now.
I was surprised how big this scene is in Africa. I did a tour over there, and the DJ before me played so many hip-hop records and so many Afrobeats, both, that I never heard before, but had the club rocking. That is such a huge scene.
Tu sais, le hip-hop, en tant que culture ou en tant que musique, si on parle de rap, dans une certaine partie du monde, aux États-Unis peut-être, les gens samplaient du funk, enfin de la musique de chez eux, si tu veux. Nous, on a fait pareil avec les ingrédients de chez nous.
Regardless where you're from, you know, it's where you at.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this flat air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from me.
Hip-hop in Burundi traces its origins to the 90s. The country's youth were drawn to the genre's energy, storytelling, and ability to reflect the hardships and realities they were living. Burundi, not unlike many East African nations, was experiencing significant political and economic challenges during this time, such as the Burundian Civil War from 1993 to 2005 due to ethnic conflicts. These conditions created fertile ground for hip-hop's rise as a form of social expression and protest. After the end of the Civil War in 2005, Burundi entered a period of recovery and hip-hop became a central part of youth culture. During that time, hip-hop gained more traction in Burundi, with its youth being more active in a culture that they, for the most part, just appreciated up until now. Still heavily influenced by American rap, many Burundian hip-hop artists began blending local languages such as Kirundi Burundi and French, with traditional Burundian rhythms and instruments walking in the same steps as other African countries prior. Such transitions and other factors like the local media providing platforms for hip-hop helped the genre reach a wider audience. Rappers in post-war Burundi tackle all the country's issues such as economic struggles, ethnic conflicts, hope for peace, instability, unemployment, and insecurity. As the years progressed, hip-hop music and culture got blended with many local and African elements and rhythm, creating a fusion that is sometimes hard to categorize as purely hip-hop. The music of mainstream artists in Burundi, such as Big Fizzo, is a good example of that. Though the country is smaller and less internationally recognized in the global hip-hop scene, the genre has found a strong and passionate following among the youth, particularly in urban areas like the capital, Bujumbura. Hip-hop in Comoros began to take shape in the early 2000s. The youth in the Three Islands country discovered the genre as it became mainstream in other French-speaking countries. Hip-hop made its way in Comoros thanks to media outlets and its diaspora in countries like France. Despite coming late to the islands, the genre was quickly adopted by its youth. Early Comorian hip-hop artists started by mimicking popular American rap styles and soon began to infuse their music with local languages such as Shingazija, the island's most widely spoken language, Arabic and French, reflecting the island's multicultural environment. The genre was still timid in the 2000s, and it's not before the 2010s that it started to evolve into a more distinct genre on its own, with local artists adopting hip-hop to deliver their message. A message which, for the most part, include local issues such as economic hardship, lack of youth opportunity, cultural identity, or religion due to the country's history. Hip-hop in Comoros is relatively young, and its place in the country's musical industry reflects that. Other, most traditional genres takes much of the music space, such as Mwagogo and Tarab, as well as the phenomenon Afrobeat. For these reasons, the local scene is relatively small. However, hip-hop from Comoros made a name for itself thanks to its diaspora, particularly in France, with the likes of Rof, Soprano, or Alonso. As for Djibouti, hip-hop began to gain popularity in the early 2000s, influenced by both the global spread of American rap and the diverse cultural landscape of the country. Djibouti, located at the crossroads of Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and Europe, has always been exposed to a wide range of musical styles. This mix of influences contributed to a distinctive local form of hip-hop that blends French, Arabic, and other East African sounds. The genre had a growing impact with the youth from urban areas, particularly Francophone hip-hop, and gained popularity during the 2010s. Local artists used the genre mostly for entertainment, but with time, they started addressing local issues such as social justice, issues of corruption, and youth empowerment, as well as cultural diversity and identity. Forward today, hip-hop in Djibouti is quite small and relatively underground. It is difficult to predict the direction the genre will take in the country, but it is definitely something worth keeping an eye on. Hip-hop culture in Eritrea began to take shape in the 90s, influenced by global trends in American hip-hop as well as other African hip-hop scenes, particularly in neighboring countries like Ethiopia and Sudan. By incorporating the country's Tigrinya and Arabic languages, Eritrean hip-hop developed in a similar way from other East African countries while keeping an original sound. Despite its access to the genre, the voice and reach of hip-hop was limited from the get-go, as Eritrea has had an history of limited right and heavy censorship from the authorities, which is probably the toughest on the continent. Due to this authoritarian control, information about the country doesn't easily reach outside its borders, and non-mainstream movements like hip-hop are barely allowed to exist. In that context, hip-hop artists in this country tackle these issues, but to a certain extent as they fear repercussions. On another hand, others who adopted the genre make it more entertaining as they feel that the population is in need of more of it. The lack of opportunity leads to a constant increase of youth immigration, limiting the growth of hip-hop in the country. Popular hip-hop artists in the country generally comes from neighboring countries like Ethiopia. The future of hip-hop in Eritrea remains uncertain, primarily due to the country's political climate and the stalemate it's been in since it started to spawn. Hip-hop first made its way into Ethiopia in the early 90s, primarily through Western rap music. The genre quickly gained popularity among the youth, who were drawn to its energy and the cultural relevance of rap's themes such as struggle, resilience, and social justice. Ethiopia, a country with a rich history and diverse cultures, had a mix of traditional music such as Eskita, a form of Ethiopian dance music, Western pop, and Arabian influences, which provided a fertile ground for the fusion of global hip-hop with local sounds. The interest for hip-hop in Ethiopia increased during the 90s, while the genre remained underground and its culture not fully explored. In the 2000s, Ethiopian hip-hop began to gain traction with young artists in cities like Addis Ababa, the capital, Dire Dawa, and Mekele, who began experimenting with local languages like Amharic, Oromo, and Tigrinya, blending them with hip-hop's global language of English and French, while also incorporating traditional Ethiopian rhythms and instrumentation such as the kra or masinko with hip-hop beats, giving it that local flavor that made it resonate with more Ethiopians. Ethiopian hip-hop began to address various themes such as government corruption, poverty, economic inequality, youth unemployment, human rights, cultural identity and heritage, ethnic and regional diversity, etc. The 2000s-2010 period saw the rise of many Ethiopian rappers who managed to make an impact in and out the country. These include the likes of Teddy-O, considered by many as the most influential Ethiopian rapper, Lige Michael, who had a similar impact, Mad Boys, who had a considerable impact, as well as Jukebox. Today, the Ethiopian hip-hop scene is well established, and its big diaspora is also making waves outside the country, particularly in the UK and US. Amongst the most popular, we can name the like of Amine and Lola Monroe. Hip-hop in Ethiopia has come a long way from its introduction in the early 90s to its current place as a dynamic and vital form of cultural expression. The genre reflects the country's deep history, its diverse cultures, and the experiences of young Ethiopians navigating a rapidly changing world. While challenges remain, particularly in terms of political freedom and economic barriers, the future of Ethiopian hip-hop looks promising as it remains a central platform for the nation's youth culture. The 90s and 2000s saw the rise of hip-hop in many East African countries, and Kenya is no exception by being exposed to the cultural movement in the early 90s. The genre first emerged in the coastal region of the country, in areas like Mombasa, and then other regions like the capital Nairobi. Many early figures had an impact of making the movement more accessible, such as Poxy Pressure or the group Kalamashaka. Early Kenyan hip-hop artists emerged in a tense social climate, and with their music infusing elements of Kenyan identity like the Kiswahili and Sheng languages mixed with English, they started expressing themselves on topics that were relatable to the Kenyan youth of that time. In the late 90s and early 2000s, other local rap groups and individual artists began to gain recognition in Kenya, such as the duo K-Soft, which helped establish the foundation for Kenyan hip-hop before disbanding in the mid-2000s. Other key pioneers included artists like Nonini and other artists of that period who became important figures in the Swahili rap and Kenyan hip-hop scenes. By the mid-2000s, hip-hop in Kenya had transitioned from an underground subculture to a mainstream genre. Artists began to gain airtime on both local radio stations and television channels, leading to an increased exposure for hip-hop in the broader Kenyan music scene. Many emerged during this period with a lasting impact, such as Calligraph Jones, one of the most successful and well-known Kenyan rappers, along with artists like Octopizzo and others. These artists helped popularize Kenyan hip-hop, attracting both local and international attention. As the hip-hop culture in Kenya grew, the music evolved into distinct sub-genres, with some artists opting for the traditional hip-hop sound, while others adopted commercial sounds, blending hip-hop with Afrobeat, dancehall and pop influences to appeal to a broader audience. Kenyan hip-hop became increasingly more diverse in terms of musical style, thematic content, and linguistic expression, marking a difference with the dominant serious tone of the genre up to this point. A good example to illustrate the difference both sonically and aesthetically, showcasing the diversity of Kenyan rap during this period, can be done by comparing the rapper King Kaka and the promising group Camp Mula, who both came to prominence during the early 2010s. While Kenyan hip-hop has gained significant mainstream popularity, artists still face issues like censorship, particularly when their music addresses sensitive political topics. Also, the lack of opportunities in the industry, as the genre is constantly growing with many young Kenyans attempting to make a career out of it, or other problems like direct competition with other popular genres like bongo flava, afrobeat and dancehall. Hip-hop in Kenya has come a long way since its early underground days in the 90s. Today, it is a mainstream genre that reflects the struggles and hope of Kenyan's youth. Through its unique blend of local languages, African rhythms and global hip-hop influences, Kenyan hip-hop has carved out a distinctive space in the global music scene. Despite different challenges, the genre is in a good place and continues to thrive and evolve. Hip-hop approximately began to gain a foothold in Madagascar during the 90s. Since then, hip-hop in Madagascar grew in popularity and a few local artists began to experiment with it using the Malagasy languages, including the widely spoken Malagasy dialects like Meruna and Betsimisaraka, alongside French and English, creating a distinctive sound that was both local and global in appeal. By the early 2000s, Malagasy hip-hop began to grow more visible on the national stage. Local rap groups and individual artists started performing in clubs and on radio stations in the capital. The genre's popularity was propelled by the rapid urbanization of Madagascar, which brought many young people from rural areas into cities where they were exposed to more diverse musical influences, including hip-hop. The Malagasy youth was attracted by the energy of hip-hop, its rebellious spirit, emphasis on individual expression, records, and naturally emulated it. From the 2010 up until now, hip-hop in Madagascar didn't evolve much. The genre sure gained in popularity, but remains a subgenre of the Malagasy music scene. Despite some artists achieving success with a few tracks, the local scene lacks of notorious figures. As of today, the Malagasy diaspora, particularly in countries like France, is giving more reach to the Malagasy hip-hop voice. This includes artists such as Oh Boy, who managed to make a name for himself in the French rap scene. Hip-hop music made its way into Malawi during the late 90s. Exposure to Black American hip-hop got many African countries interested in the genre, and Malawi was no exception. American icons such as Tupac Shakur, the Notorious B.I.G., Nas, Wu-Tang, and others from the Golden Era were highly influential, with their music inspiring young Malawians to embrace the genre's rebellious spirit and lyrical storytelling. Malawian hip-hop initially mirrored the style and content of Western rap, but over time, around the early 2000s, local artists began to blend their music with Malawian culture and languages, such as the Shishewa. Many individual artists and groups started to make some noise, among which the Bantu Kamuladzi, one of the most influential in the country. During the 2000s, hip-hop in Malawi began to gain more recognition. Local radio stations and music television began featuring Malawian hip-hop artists, and hip-hop became one of the most popular genres, particularly among urban youth. In the same lane of the ones before them, many new artists made a name for themselves locally, such as Physics and others who, while embracing other genres, kept the core hip-hop sound and tackled sensitive themes for the Malawian youth. Such themes included critique of government policies, corruption, and classic challenges such as poverty, unemployment, education, and healthcare. Malawian hip-hop often embodies a spirit of rebellion against the status quo. During the late 2000s, early 2010s period up to today, many Malawian hip-hop artists got recognition for going mainstream, such as Young K, Tay Green, and the late Marx. Malawian hip-hop still faces many challenges despite its certain popularity, like national recognition or industry-related issues. Despite the challenges, the future of hip-hop in Malawi looks promising. The genre continues to thrive, particularly in urban areas, and as Malawian hip-hop artists continue to find innovative ways to blend local culture with global hip-hop influences, the genre will likely become an even more important voice for social and political commentary in the country. Hip-hop music was introduced to Mauritius through global media in the early 2000s. Early Mauritian hip-hop was heavily influenced by the sounds and styles of American rap, as well as the French rap scene from France and the Réunion Island. Mauritian youth, particularly in Port-Louis, the capital, and other urban centers, began to adopt hip-hop culture, getting into it not just for the music, but for its broader aspect of dance, fashion, and its whole energy. Hip-hop offered an alternative to traditional music music genres and provided a platform for young people to express their identity and address the challenges they faced in a rapidly changing society. By the mid-2000s, Mauritian hip-hop began to evolve into a more distinct genre, with local artists beginning to integrate their own Creole language and cultural references into their music. As hip-hop grew in popularity, it became an important cultural force for young people, offering them a way to express frustrations over social issues, economic inequality, and political disappointment, and also to entertain themselves. Over the years, hip-hop music in Mauritius has been struggling to find its place, competing with other well-established genres such as Sega, reggae, and the fusion between the two, Seggae. Despite the music not resonating with the people, other aspects of the culture such as graffiti and the hip-hop dances are well established in the country. Breakdancing and other hip-hop related dances are part of the youth culture, with many events happening every year. Despite the aforementioned challenges, the future of hip-hop as a culture in Mauritius is promising. Musically, the local scene is definitely not hip-hop influenced, and the hip-hop enthusiasts in Mauritius throw their interest elsewhere. But with so many aspects of the culture incorporated in young Mauritian lives, a door is opened for a cultural growth of hip-hop in the country. Hip-hop first emerged in Mozambique in the 90s, primarily through the influence of global hip-hop culture. Like many other African countries, Mozambique was introduced to hip-hop through the dominance of American rap, additionally to the music of neighboring countries like South Africa, where hip-hop had already gained traction. The genre began to spread among young people, particularly in the lower-income communities, who could resonate with the message and energy of hip-hop similar to their realities. By the early 2000s, Mozambican hip-hop had began to gain more visibility. Early rappers used languages such as Portuguese, Changana, and Ronga, as well as elements of traditional Mozambican music on hip-hop beats, starting to shape the Mozambican hip-hop sound. One of the early and most significant contributors to the Mozambican hip-hop scene was Azagaya, an influential rapper known for his socially conscious lyrics. The genre gained more popularity in the country, and Mozambican rappers began to perform and collaborate in neighboring countries, giving more reach to the local scene. By the 2010s, as the genre became recognized by more people in the country, many local rappers managed to gain notoriety such as Dama Dobling or Dias Caras. Today, hip-hop in Mozambique mainly remains underground. However, the youth in Mozambique continue to embrace hip-hop as a way to express themselves, and the genre is likely to continue to grow in popularity. Hip-hop was introduced to Rwanda through the influence of global hip-hop culture via neighboring East African countries like Uganda and Kenya, and the francophone rap scene from French-speaking countries. The genre first began to make an impact in Rwanda in the late 90s and early 2000s. Around the same time, the country was recovering from the 94 Rwandan genocide, a tragic event that shaped the nation's trajectory in the years to come. The 2000s saw the emergence of hip-hop in the country as local groups and artists were beginning to experiment with the genre. In the mid-2000s, Rwandan hip-hop began to gain more visibility, especially in Kigali, where a more organized urban music scene began to take shape. Due to the country's social context, the genre was used to tackle themes such as unity and reconciliation, peace, identity, and cultural expression. Rwandan hip-hop artists frequently incorporate local languages, particularly Kinyarwanda, the country's primary language, alongside French and English, creating a sound that can appeal to both global and local audiences. During this decade and the one that followed, some artists gained notoriety in the Rwandan hip-hop scene, such as the collective Tough Gang or the late J. Polly. As of today, the country's music industry continues to grow and develop, with an opportunity for hip-hop to follow that trend. The genre cannot be considered as mainstream yet and doesn't seem to be standing on solid foundation despite its popularity. The Rwandan underground scene is quite active, and more young people keep embracing the genre, maybe setting the country up for a bright future in hip-hop. Hip-hop first arrived in Seychelles in the late 90s and early 2000s. As with many other parts of the world, young people in Seychelles were exposed to the music of American hip-hop and francophone rap, mainly from France. The genre resonated with youth who are eager to express themselves and often used it as a way to address social issues, youth struggles, and the evolving national identity. The hip-hop scene in Seychelles was initially small, with just a few underground rap groups and artists emerging. Much of the early rap music was influenced by the styles of American and French hip-hop, but was adapted to local context. By the 2010s, the hip-hop scene in Seychelles began to grow more organized thanks to the rise of social media platforms offering easier means of communication and reach between the different underground scenes that kept the movement alive in the country. Local artists began to incorporate Creole lyrics into their songs, making their work more relatable to Seychellois listeners while still drawing from global hip-hop influences. Seychelles hip-hop community began to focus on themes relevant to the local context such as economic struggles, education, youth issues, and identity. Fast forward today, the scene hasn't evolved much, with hip-hop in Seychelles staying relatively small and underground. Due to the cultural context of the country and its small population, the future of hip-hop in Seychelles doesn't look so bright. However, the fact that hip-hop influences from overseas still reach the local youth, and also that hip-hop is still a relatively young movement, can be motives of hope for young Seychellois hip-hop fans. The origins of hip-hop in Somalia can be traced to the 2000s, a period when the country was embroiled in civil war and political instability. During this time, many Somalis fled to countries in the Middle East, Europe, and North America, especially to cities with significant Somali diaspora communities like London, Minneapolis, and Toronto. It was within these communities that Somali youth first encountered global hip-hop culture, which became a way for them to connect with their identities, tell their stories, and reflect on their experiences. So the history of Somali hip-hop started with its diaspora. When it reached local audiences and Somali youth started experimenting with it, they progressively added Somali traditional music such as Danto and Pourambur with hip-hop beats, and they began to make Somali poetry and oral traditions with rap, while being influenced by the hip-hop movements from overseas. During its first years, Somali hip-hop was relatively underground but definitely alive amongst the different Somali communities all over the globe. It's in these communities of the Somali diaspora that some started to emerge. Artists such as Kanan, a Somali-Canadian musician, gained international recognition in the mid-2000s. His success helped raise the profile of Somali music in the global mainstream, laying the groundwork for the acceptance and growth of Somali hip-hop. In the diaspora, Somali artists began using hip-hop as a platform to discuss issues like refugee experiences, immigration, identity struggles, and the challenges of life in exile. They often addressed Somali pride and resilience in their lyrics, seeking to preserve their cultural identity while integrating into new societies. In the 2010s, as Somalia began to stabilize politically and economically after decades of conflict, hip-hop began to find a stronger foothold within the country itself. Despite the ongoing challenges such as poverty, youth unemployment, and the influence of radical groups, we can only be optimistic for the future of Somali hip-hop. Despite its current state locally, as it is relatively new, it is part of its youth history thanks to its diaspora. Also, the fact that Somali hip-hop is still new means that many possibilities are still present. We can only hope that the genre will likely continue to serve as an important form of cultural expression and social change, particularly as Somalia continues to rebuild and modernize after decades of conflict. South Sudan is the youngest country in the world as it gained its independence in 2011. The country gained its independence after years of conflict and has been focused on rebuilding itself. Hip-hop in South Sudan is, as everything else, something new, despite the fact that hip-hop was present in Sudan for at least a decade prior, which explained the fact that South Sudanese were already familiar with the genre. Its impact wasn't established in the regions that would become South Sudan. As the country is literally building itself, it is notable to say that American culture is definitely present and is influential, particularly among the youth. It is logical that they adopted hip-hop, but the genre is still growing. The artists who experiment with it talk about the country's turbulent history and social issues, peace, unity, identity, and the longing for a better future. Hip-hop in South Sudan is in a particular place where everything is to be accomplished. Regardless of the direction it takes, the result will definitely be interesting and worth checking upon. Hip-hop emerged in Tanzania in the late 80s and first gained traction in the 90s, largely influenced by the global rise of hip-hop in the US. As Tanzanian youth became exposed to rap music through television, radio, and cassette tapes, the genre began to take root in the country. Early pioneers were influenced by both American rap and local traditions, such as Taarab and Bongo Flava. Tanzania's own fusion of hip-hop, Afrobeats, Arabic melodies, soul, R&B, and reggae, a breezy genre. These influences helped shape the unique style that combined both social consciousness and local identity. Bongo Flava emerged as a subgenre of hip-hop and is today referred as Tanzanian hip-hop. However, traditional hip-hop music is still being made in Tanzania, and a debate exists in the country whether Bongo Flava should be considered as its own genre, as artists of both disciplines are flirting with the codes. For the sake of this video, we will include both in one while keeping a fine distinctive line. Tanzanian hip-hop has addressed a wide variety of themes including social and political issues, cultural identity or youth empowerment. Some of its key artists over the years are Professor Jay, one of Tanzania's most iconic and influential hip-hop artists who gained notoriety in the 2000s by addressing political issues before becoming a politician himself. Rosary, an energetic female rapper who gained notoriety in the 2010s. J Nako, a rapper who does both traditional rap and Bongo Flava. The Tanzanian hip-hop scene has grown over the years, influenced not only by the international rap scene, but also by the unique Bongo Flava, a genre which blends hip-hop, R&B and reggae and the other genres we mentioned before, leading to a hybrid sound that is popular in the mainstream. Overall, Tanzanian hip-hop remains a dynamic and influential cultural movement, offering a unique blend of global influence and local identity. The genre continues to shape the music scene in Tanzania and resonates with youth across East Africa and beyond. Hip-hop in Uganda emerged in the late 90s and early 2000s, influenced largely by American hip-hop. As it gained momentum, Ugandan hip-hop got shaped by the distinct musical culture of the country, rich in indigenous rhythms and languages that fusion African sounds, reggae and dancehall, creating an upbeat and energetic hip-hop sound. The genre quickly found a voice among urban youth, particularly in Kampala, Uganda's capital, who were drawn to the expressive, rebellious and socially conscious nature of rap music. In the beginning, Ugandan hip-hop was largely an underground movement, with local artists rapping in English or Swahili and adopting international styles. Over time, however, hip-hop in Uganda became more localized, incorporating Ugandan languages such as Luganda, Runyankore, and Lusoga, as well as elements we aforementioned. Ugandan hip-hop is a powerful tool for social commentary, with lyrics often addressing a variety of themes like poverty, unemployment, inequality, and corruption, as well as the frustrations of ordinary Ugandans who feel disenfranchised with the political system. The genre evolved at a steady pace over the years and has cemented a spot in the local music scene amongst other genres. Some of the key artists of the Ugandan hip-hop scene over the years include Navio, one of Uganda's most well-known and successful hip-hop artists, JNL Zamba, known for his use of local languages and inspiring lyrics, and Fik Fameka, who gained fame in the 2010s and is one of the main figures currently. Ugandan hip-hop has grown rapidly over the years, moving from a niche genre to a mainstream force. The future of Ugandan hip-hop looks promising as the genre continues to gain popularity not only within Uganda but also across East Africa and globally. Its fast growth leaves room for improvement in the local scene. Hip-hop first appeared in Zambia around the early to mid-80s due to the country's early access to American content. Tracks by US pioneer artists reached Zambia and the genre got adopted by the local youth as the music was played in clubs and discos. Some local songs from that time included elements of hip-hop here and there, and one that really stood out is one by the Rusiki brothers called Saturday Night. The track is a blend of hip-hop, rock and disco music and was a hit in Zambia and neighboring countries. We will have to wait for the 90s to have pure local hip-hop music circulating amongst the Zambian youth, and in 93, rapper Omar is said to have released the first Zambian hip-hop album, Your Love. During the decade, Zambian hip-hop started to get influenced by other African hip-hop music and started including these sounds to their own, like the South African Kwaito or the Bongo Flava from Tanzania. By adding their own cultural and traditional elements to the music, Zambian artists created a more distinct sound labeled as Zam Raga or Zaid hip-hop. The 90s was a prolific decade for Zaid hip-hop, with the rise of many record labels and hip-hop events contributing to its growth and the rise of future important acts. The 90s and early 2000s helped solidify the roots of hip-hop in the country, also thanks to the work of artists such as the Black Muntu Duo, Daddy Zemus and JK. Zambian hip-hop, like in many African countries, often serves as a platform for addressing issues such as corruption, poverty, inequality, unemployment and government policies, as well as more personal experiences. Thanks to a strong foundation, Zaid hip-hop evolved from the 2000s until today in a positive fashion. Many subgenres of hip-hop spawned in the country, and the genre is highly diverse both sonically and aesthetically. Many artists have gained recognition and continue to push the hip-hop forward, such as Slap D, one of the most successful and influential Zambian hip-hop artists, active from the mid-2000s until today. Cleo Ice Cream, one of the most successful female rappers in Zambia. Maki 2, a prominent rapper and producer. Chef 187, who blend trap music with other styles. Jay Cash, or Sampa the Great, one of the most unique and prolific female rappers on the continent, and many more. Hip-hop in Zambia is at a good place. Considering its early history, the genre evolved to a point where it's a big part of the local culture, and after a boosted growth during the 90s and 2000s, the genre continued to grow but at a more stable pace. Zambian hip-hop has a promising future, and its scene is bound to become even more exciting and influential in the coming years. Hip-hop entered Zimbabwe in the 90s, influenced by the global spread of American hip-hop. Initially, the genre was underground, with artists primarily emulating Western styles, particularly American rap, and using English or a mix of English and Shona, the dominant local language, in their lyrics. During this time, hip-hop was mainly confined to urban areas like Harare, Zimbabwe's capital, where youth were exposed to international music through radio, television, and imported cassettes. During the mid to late 90s, music from neighboring countries where hip-hop was starting to evolve reached Zimbabwe, and they started to embrace these subgenres of hip-hop coming from countries like South Africa, Zambia, and more. Zimbabwean youth who embraced these styles experienced with hip-hop by giving it an upbeat energy, which was reflected by the music mainly made for entertainment in the early ages. The Zimbabwean hip-hop enthusiasts also used the genre to talk about other themes, such as the state of the country and its numerous issues. During the 2000s and 2010s, the genre gained more popularity but remained relatively underground. A few Zimbabwean hip-hop artists who got some success include the likes of 10th Diamond, Stoner, or the female rapper Kiki Badass. Zimbabwean hip-hop has evolved significantly over the years. In its early years, the scene was dominated by underground artists and crews that would perform in small venues and on street corners. The late 2000s and early 2010s marked a period of growth for Zimbabwean hip-hop, with a wave of young artists bringing new sounds and lyrical styles to the scene. Today, despite facing challenges such as censorship, economic difficulties, and competition with other genres, Zimbabwean hip-hop remains a form of expression for the country's youth. Its future is not easy to predict, but will more likely take a positive direction.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this flat air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from me.
But the world, you see, like, is a vast place.
You know, the continent, we've been able to do some dope stuff. You know?
Dans le rap africain, bien sûr, surtout.
There's the movement of hip-hop, R&B music, house music, all that coming out of not only South Africa, but the continent in general is just amazing right now.
I was surprised how big this scene is in Africa. When I did a tour over there, and the DJ before me played so many hip-hop records and so many Afrobeats, both that I never heard before, but had the club rocking. That is such a huge scene.
Tu sais, le hip-hop, en tant que culture ou en tant que musique, si on parle du rap, dans une certaine partie du monde, aux États-Unis peut-être, les gens samplaient du funk, enfin de la musique de chez eux, si tu veux. Nous, on a fait pareil avec les ingrédients de chez nous.
Regardless where you from, you know, it's where you at.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this flat air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from me.
Hip-hop arrived in Angola in the early 90s, influenced by the global rise of American rap music. The genre was introduced during a period of transition for Angola, as the country was emerging from a long civil war which ended in 2002. During this time, many young Angolans in urban areas like Luanda, the capital, were looking for any type of escape and ways to make their voices heard, and hip-hop, among other things, provided that. The genre quickly became a tool for youth to express themselves, especially in the context of their struggles, dreams, and the socio-political issues affecting the country. As the genre developed, Angolan artists began to incorporate their own languages, Kimbundu, Mbundu, and Portuguese, which is the official language, coupled with local sounds and electronic music, creating a dynamic style of hip-hop music. During the 2000s, Angolan hip-hop was being used as an entertainment tool, but often addressed themes such as the country's post-civil war challenges, including poverty, corruption, and more. Talking about these sensitive issues were kind of risky for hip-hop artists of the time, as freedom of expression expression was restricted in the country's political context of that period. The music evolved during the years, and thanks to its diaspora, as many Angolans fled the country during the Civil War, the music scene was blending diverse influences. Some key artists in Angolan hip-hop include Iconoclasta, a key figure in Angolan hip-hop for his activism, whose critics of the regime led him to go to jail in the 2010s, and the female rapper Eva Rap Diva, who managed to stand out in the local scene. Angolan hip-hop has grown steadily over the years, from its underground origins to a recognized genre in a country rich in musical history. However, the genre still faces significant challenges that slow down its evolution, including political repression that has been a constant for years. Despite its decrease lately, it is still an issue and a risk taken by the local artists. The one who critique the government or challenge the status quo may find their music censored or even face legal consequences. The Angolan music industry, like many African industries, face a lack of infrastructure and funding, and while hip-hop is widely popular in Angola, it competes with other genres like kizomba, semba, the Angolan pop music, simply called musica, and the popular kuduro. These genres often dominate mainstream radio and clubs, but hip-hop has nonetheless maintained a loyal following, especially among young people in urban areas. Angolan hip-hop has the potential to evolve into one of the most influential movements in African music as it continues to address both local and global issues while embracing the unique cultural identity of Angola. Hip-hop made its way to Cameroon in the mid-80s. The genre became popular among the youth who were inspired by the success of US hip-hop artists. Early Cameroonian hip-hop groups and artists began to adopt the American style, rapping in English and French sometimes, performing in local clubs, street corners, and other informal spaces. In the 90s, Cameroonian artists began to make their mark by mixing hip-hop with local genres, including Makossa, Bikutsi, and Dombolo, while rapping in local languages such as Pidgin, Ewondo, and Bassa. This fusion of global and local sounds helped create a distinct sound that is recognizable today as Cameroonian hip-hop. The genre, who took over 2 decades to start getting recognition in the popular minds in the country, was associated at first to angry and outcast youth, also due to the themes they would approach and the energy of the songs. Such themes include government corruption, political oppression, but also the struggles of young people in urban areas like insecurity and violence. From the 18th to the 90s, hip-hop in Cameroon evolved musically with influences from the US, France, and neighboring countries such as Senegal. Among some pioneers of this period, we can name the group Negroicism, formed in the mid-90s, who had a significant impact. The 2000s was a period of significant growth in Cameroonian hip-hop, with a lot of artists coming and going onto the scene, experimenting with the genre. This trend kept going until the 2010s, where some started to stand out, such as Jovi, one of the most influential hip-hop artists in Cameroon, is rapping in Pidgin, English, and French mainly. Stanley Eno is another major figure in the Cameroonian hip-hop scene, who, like Jovi, got success outside the country. Malox is a popular rapper known for his entertaining music, and Tenon, known for his versatility. After a slow start, hip-hop managed to become popular and recognized in the Cameroonian music scene. As of today, despite facing many challenges, the genre has shown its capacity to evolve in a difficult context, with artists of the 2010s still dominating the airs. The genre capacity of renewal is again being tested, and its response to this situation will shape the future of hip-hop in Cameroon. Hip-hop arrived in the Central African Republic in the mid to late 90s, following the global spread of hip-hop culture and its growth in francophone countries. The appeal of hip-hop in CAR, as elsewhere, was its raw honesty and the way it addressed real-life issues, from poverty and unemployment to identity and political struggles. From its introduction and during the 2000s, hip-hop enthusiasts in Centrafrique experienced with the genre and started rapping in local languages such as Sango, the national language, or French, the official language, allowing them to connect with their local audiences. However, the genre has remained underground and unpopular to some people. Hip-hop lovers in Centrafrique tend to tap in with what's happening in countries around them, as the genre is not that big locally. Hip-hop in the Central African Republic remains an emerging scene, with a few key artists gaining popularity within the country and its regions. However, the lack of widespread media coverage and limited opportunities for professional music production have made it harder for many artists to reach national and international recognition. The hip-hop community in CAR is small but passionate, and it continues to grow as young people embrace the genre. Despite the many challenges, the future of hip-hop in the Central African Republic looks promising. Despite its small scene, hip-hop in the Central African Republic is kept alive by passionate fans, and it's fair to say that they haven't had all the conditions to make the genre grow. As time goes, more opportunities for growth will arise. However, the genre can also be reduced to such a small stage that it becomes totally insignificant in the country.
Hip-hop made its way to Chad in the late 80s. In the street of N'Djamena, the capital, the genre quickly gained traction among Chadian youth who would party on hip-hop rhythms and adopt elements of the culture, such as the dance and the demeanor. Initially, much of the Chadian hip-hop scene mirrored the American one, with rappers imitating US artists. However, as the genre developed locally, Chadian artists began to incorporate local elements like French and Verlan, a type of French slang which consists of flipping every word, coupled with the use of local languages such as Chadian Arabic, a local dialect that allowed artists to connect more deeply with local audiences. Among the numerous groups of this period, we have les Banlieusards, who were one of the first to reach a mainstream local audience with the genre. In the 2000s, many hip-hop related events and festivals started to see the light of the day, and hip-hop was included in general urban celebrations. The future of hip-hop in Chad holds promise, with the increasing use of social media platforms and the growing exposure of scenes from neighboring countries which still have a great impact on the global music industry. We can assume that more Chadians will be drawn to the genre and will contribute to expand it even more. However, its slow growth over the years shows that the genre and the country's music industry is still facing some important challenges. Hip-hop in the Democratic Republic of Congo first emerged in the 90s, brought by a mix of local youth's exposure to American rap music and the global hip-hop culture, particularly from the Francophone scene. As hip-hop spread across Africa, young people in DRC began to incorporate the genre into their lives, rapping in French, Lingala, and other local languages, while using it as a tool to address social, political, and cultural issues. Over the years, the genre gained traction in a country with a rich musical culture, particularly in the youth from urban areas and the youth from the diaspora. From the 2000s until now, Congolese hip-hop has been echoing around the continent and beyond thanks to Congolese artists being present in the global Francophone scene. Hip-hop in DRC tackled various themes from social issues, the ongoing conflict in some region of the country, the contrast between the potential of the country and its current state, to life on the street and general entertainment. The local Congolese hip-hop scene is not quite big, despite having a recognized place in a saturated music industry. However, the Congolese diaspora has been making waves for the past 20 years, with its Congolese artists dominating the charts in France and Belgium, having their success echoes around the whole Francophone scene. Such artists include Youssoupha, a Congolese rapper based in France, who is one of the most internationally recognized Congolese hip-hop artists due to his lyrical prowess through the years. Nino, also based in France, who cemented himself as a pioneer of the new generation of French hip-hop music. Gims, a talented and versatile artist who reached global success with his group and in solo. And Damso, who is considered for many as the greatest rapper out of the Belgium scene, him too being Congolese. We can go on, but those are amongst the most notable, to name a few. Over the years, the hip-hop scene in DRC has grown both in size and influence. Today, many Congolese hip-hop artists have global followings, particularly within Africa and the diaspora. The digital age has also facilitated collaborations with artists from other countries, further diversifying the sound of DRC's hip-hop scene. The future of hip-hop in DRC looks promising. It's impossible to say the opposite when seeing how Congolese rappers position themselves globally. The main challenge for Congolese hip-hop will be to build and grow a local scene as strong as its diaspora to really establish the country as a force to be reckoned with. Hip-hop in Equatorial Guinea, one of Africa's smallest countries, is a relatively niche but growing subculture that reflects the diverse cultural influences of this bilingual nation, speaking Spanish and French officially. Hip-hop culture began to make its way into Equatorial Guinea in the late 90s and early 2000s, following the global rise of the genre in the US and other African countries. The genre's appeal grew primarily among the youth, who were drawn to its raw expression of urban realities, identity, and protest. Like in many African countries, hip-hop was first introduced through radio stations, music videos, and later the internet. Equatorial Guinea, which is a Spanish-speaking country for the most part, with a rich mix of ethnic groups, has a diverse cultural heritage that also includes influences from neighboring countries like Cameroon and Gabon, as well as the broader African continent. As a result, the local hip-hop scene is a blend of traditional African sounds, modern beats, and international rap styles. Some of the key themes in Equatorial Guinean hip-hop include social and political commentary, as Equatorial Guinea, under the long-standing rule of President Teodoro Obiang and his family, has faced significant challenges related to political repression, human rights abuses, and economic inequality. While the language of hip-hop in Equatorial Guinea is often Spanish, many artists incorporate local languages such as Fon and Bubi to connect more directly with their communities. Artists often express pride in their cultural heritage while blending global rap styles with local musical traditions. The influence of neighboring countries, particularly from Central Africa like Gabon and Cameroon, can also be heard in the music. Hip-hop in Equatorial Guinea is still in its early stages of development, and the hip-hop in the country is more consumed than produced, despite young people in different regions of the country embracing and experimenting with the genre. Plus, the genre faces many challenges as it is not seen from a good eye by a considerable number of the population, particularly the authorities, who use tools like censorship as a way to prevent hip-hop artists to have too much freedom in a country which, despite all its issues, is quite stable and really small. Lack of infrastructure in the industry and limited exposure doesn't help the growth of the genre in the country, and as of today, the future of hip-hop in Equatorial Guinea doesn't depend solely on the interest it generates, but on other factors that affect the country as a whole. However, there is a scene and a public for hip-hop which can be used as foundations for considerable growth. When it comes to Gabon, hip-hop first made its way into the country during the late 80s and early 90s. The Gabonese youth got introduced to the genre via media outlets such as TV radio, but also in formal ways such as pirated music and compilations mixtapes. DJs from Libreville and big cities like Port-Gentil have always prided themselves in bringing new sounds to their audiences. Hip-hop music and culture became popular with youth embracing all elements of the culture, DJing, graffiti, and dance, and rap music in a lower measure at first. During the 90s, violent national manifestations took place due to the youth being irritated by the power structures of the Bongos, who led the country for decades. It's in this context that rap music really started to find a voice in the country, with many local existing groups voicing up their opinions and relaying the frustration of the population. However, early access to hip-hop in Gabon was mostly a luxury of kids from well-off families, so when groups from these social classes started making music against the system, they were attacked by groups from popular classes, denouncing a form of hypocrisy, posing the basis of a dynamic that will be found in Gabonese hip-hop as it progresses. Groups from this period include Gunter's Family, V2A4, and Siapo CX. In the early 90s, the first hip-hop radio and TV shows started to air, helping at popularizing the genre. In the mid-90s, around 95, the collective Buck Drama, which included future notorious groups of the country hip-hop history, such as Raboun and Mauvaise Haleine, saw the light of day. A few years later, other groups like Aïeux, who also had a serious impact, followed. The scene kept being dynamic until the 2000s period, during which the aforementioned groups reached their peak and gained recognition nationally and above the borders. The 2000s and early 2010s is considered until today as the golden age of Gabonese hip-hop, as the country was fully immersed into the genre. In 2003, the label Ibn Entertainment, who is probably the most influential to date, was created. The label, which was more like a collective, included the main figure of the group Raboun, Bapunga, a pioneer of the genre in the country, Koba, who became the most influential rapper of that time, and many other talented artists such as the R&B duo La Fuente. Together, they dominated the charts and shifted the sound of Gabonese hip-hop from a platform for activism and social issues to something more bling-bling, totally different and unprecedented on the scene. And it worked, paving the way for for commercial rap and urban music. Many other groups and individual acts gained in notoriety during this period, as hip-hop was dominating the charts, even in front of the other local urban genres. We can also mention the female rapper Tina, who was the figure of female hip-hop artist in the country for many years. Gabonese hip-hop music got recognition around the continent, and with many hip-hop events, the country offered a platform for international artists to come produce themselves in Gabon. During the 2010s, hip-hop growth slowed down principally due to the lack of renewal, as the generation after the one from the 2000s failed to take over. Hip-hop was still being heavily influential on the youth, but lost ground to local genres and continental relatable music such as highlife and Afrobeat. The underground scene grew as the youth discovered platforms such as SoundCloud and Audiomack. Underground rappers managed to generate local buzz, but almost never translated to mainstream success. As a result, many hip-hop artists transitioned to other genres such as jam, currently the biggest genre in the country, which is always being put in competition with hip-hop. Also, another issue is that the Gabonese hip-hop artists have always faced challenges related to its industry, like the lack of copyright, which has been one of the main themes in Gabonese hip-hop. Despite the popularity of the genre and the success of the music, hip-hop artists principally lives off performances and in a way depends on the state, as it provides the biggest platforms and the biggest checks. In that regard, many artists went from activism to supporting the power in place and back and forth, which made the genre lose credibility. Today, the scene is still active, with artists like Rod Zeng being one of the main active figures, and rappers like Benjamin Epps, who now based in France, gained the first BET for Gabonese hip-hop in 2002. Hip-hop in Gabon is a dynamic and evolving cultural movement that continues to serve as a voice for the country's youth. It provides a platform for social and political commentary, youth empowerment and cultural pride, while also offering a space for innovation and artistic expression. While the scene faces challenges, the genre has the potential to continue growing and contributing to the wider African music landscape. Hip-hop arrived in the Republic of Congo in the 80s and early 90s. As in many African nations, hip-hop became popular in urban centers like Brazzaville, the capital, and Pointe-Noire, the country's second largest city. The youth of the country was curious about the genre and was inspired by the fact that other countries were doing it in French. In the Republic of the Congo, hip-hop was initially popularized by underground groups, often among the urban poor, who saw the genre as a way to challenge traditional cultural norms and express their dissatisfaction with political and economic conditions. The genre stayed underground until the 2000s, where the interest for it grew and Congolese artists of the time started creating an hybrid sound by fusioning elements of traditional Congolese music like soukous and rumba with hip-hop beats, a song similar to that of their neighbors of DRC. Over the years, the Congolese hip-hop scene had a slow, steady growth and is still mainly underground despite its obvious popularity. Congolese youth consume a lot of hip-hop and seems to favor international acts over the local scene. However, some rappers managed to gain a solid following, such as Makalba Malachek, considered by many as the greatest rapper to date locally, and Niska, a French rapper from Congolese origin who's probably the most accomplished artist out of the country. Hip-hop has become a space for self-expression and cultural identity. Artists use their lyrics and beats to represent the rich cultural heritage of the Republic of Congo, while also looking outward to global hip-hop trends. Its future is likely bright despite the challenges the genre is facing, such as a relatively small scene and industry, coupled with the competition of other local genres. However, hip-hop still speaks to the Congolese youth, and with the increasing popularity of the genre globally, and particularly in other African countries, it will definitely draw more people in. In Sao Tome and Principe, hip-hop is a relatively small but emerging cultural force. The country, an island nation located in the Gulf of Guinea off the coast of Central Africa, has a rich cultural heritage, but its music scene is still developing compared to other African nations. Hip-hop began to find its way into Sao Tome and Principe in the late 90s and early 2000s, primarily influenced by global trends from the United States, as well as the wider African hip-hop movement and the rise of hip-hop to Gabon. Salsa, the Portuguese version of hip-hop adopted by all Portuguese-speaking countries. Over time, local artists began to incorporate their own experiences, language, and cultural references into their music, creating a unique blend of global rap influences with local sounds and rhythms. Hip-hop artists from Sao Tome and Principe use their music to express frustration with inequality and the challenges of everyday life, while also calling for greater opportunities and social change. In a country with a relatively small population, around 200,000 people, cultural identity plays a central role in the music. Local hip-hop artists often reflect a deep pride in local traditions, African roots, and a desire to promote national unity. The hip-hop scene in Sao Tome and Principe is still developing, with fewer globally recognized stars than other African nations. The small population and the lack of exposure doesn't facilitate its expansion. Moreover, as the nation continues to develop economically and culturally, there may be opportunities for local artists to thrive, with better access to music production tools, educational programs, and platforms to showcase their work.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this fine air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from it home.
But the world, you see, like, is a vast place.
You know, the continent, we've been able to do some dope stuff. You know?
Dans le rap africain, bien sûr, surtout.
There's the movement of hip-hop, R&B music, house music, all that coming out of not only South Africa, but the continent in general is just amazing right now.
I was surprised how big this scene is in Africa. I did a tour over there, and the DJ before me played so many hip-hop records and so many Afrobeats, both, that I never heard before, but had the club rocking. That is such a huge scene.
C'est le hip-hop en tant que culture ou en tant que musique, si on parle de rap, dans une certaine partie du monde, aux États-Unis peut-être, les gens samplaient du funk, de la musique de chez eux, si tu veux. Nous, on a fait pareil avec les ingrédients de chez nous.
Regardless where you from, you know, it's where you at.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this fine air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from it home.
Hip-hop first reached Botswana in the 80s, started to gain traction in the 90s, as young people from rich families began to adopt the genre, particularly aspects like the fashion style, and emulated the energy of hip-hop in their lifestyles. As in many other countries with early access to hip-hop, it first hit young people from families in high social classes who logically had easier access to international contents. But unlike other countries, this trend contributed to the popularity of hip-hop in Botswana by making it look quote-unquote cool. Popular DJs emerged such as DJ Schizo and DJ Seed, who formed the group P-Side, one of the most influential in Botswana hip-hop history. The media also helped promote the genre by showcasing local acts around the same period. Also, Kwaito, a subgenre of hip-hop from South Africa, gained popularity in the country and resonated with youth, particularly from rural areas, giving the cultural ties between the two countries. During the 2000s, hip-hop popularity increased even more, with groups who gained prominence in the 90s reaching their peak and the emergence of many new local acts. The media kept playing an important role by promoting local hip-hop, and in the mid-2000s, the genre started to get recognition outside its borders in the Southern Africa region, with artists such as Mr. Doe, Scar, and Zeus. During the 2010s, the genre whose artists were facing critics of sounding too Western took a more local turn, and then Motswako hip-hop, a subgenre of hip-hop in Botswana, was born. It's basically Botswana hip-hop with the use of more local sounds and local languages. The hip-hop scene in Botswana is supported by events and gatherings that bring artists and fans together, like the Motswako Invasion Festival, one of the most significant events in the country. Open mic events, street cyphers, and battle rap competitions are also common, providing young rappers and producers with opportunities to showcase their talent. Despite the fact that hip-hop in Botswana has slowed down by the end of the 2010s, the genre is still alive and popular, making us enthusiastic about its future. Hip-hop in Eswatini began to make its presence known in the late 90s and early 2000s, influenced by the global hip-hop culture and the growing scenes from neighboring countries such as South Africa. In the early years, hip-hop in Eswatini had an underground presence, with local artists drawing inspiration from American hip-hop icons. However, the Eswatini's hip-hop scene started to distinguish itself a little bit as local artists began to incorporate the country's indigenous languages such as Siswati, the national language, and English to their their lyrics. The blend of local languages and global influences gave rise to a unique Swazi hip-hop sound. Also, the growth of the South African Kwaito heavily influenced the local scene in Eswatini. Artists in Eswatini used the genre to address important social and political issues, the likes of frustration with poverty, unemployment, political corruption, lack of opportunities. Some also used their music to comment on the country's political system, which remains largely a monarchy under King Mswati III, and the limited freedom of expression faced by citizens. The Eswatini hip-hop scene blend international influences with local sounds. While global hip-hop trends shape the style and delivery, Swazi artists often mix in local beats, traditional rhythms, and dialects. The Eswatini hip-hop scene is still relatively small compared to larger countries and live mainly through the acts of neighboring countries. Its growth faces many challenges such as limited media exposure, with traditional radio stations and TV channels which are often dominated by other genres such as traditional music, pop, and dancehall. Economic and infrastructural limitations, cultural resistance from some traditionalists who view it as a foreign influence are also challenges faced by hip-hop in the country. Also, Eswatini's political environment, which is a monarchy with limited freedom of expression, doesn't facilitate the growth of outside influences. Hip-hop approximately reached Lesotho in the mid to late 90s. As a small country with a rich cultural history, hip-hop beginnings in Lesotho were kind of timid. Much like in other African nations, the genre was first introduced through traditional global media outlets and the internet. Among the small part of youth in Lesotho who embraced the culture, the influence of the American scene was strong, and it showed in the records and testimony from that time. The late 90s and early 2000s saw a rise in popularity for the genre through battles, cyphers, and local crews who would influence each other. By the mid-2000s, the hip-hop scene in Lesotho started to grow, with young artists experimenting with rap, incorporating Sesotho, the national language, alongside English into their lyrics. The late 2000s to late 2010s marked another shift in Lesotho hip-hop trajectory. Up to now, most actors of the scene were parts of crews and collectives, competing and influencing each other in the capital, Maseru. From the late 2000s, many individuals started to emerge, keeping the core of what Lesotho hip-hop had become, but while also making the sound evolve and its content a bit more diverse. The hip-hop culture in Lesotho is still growing, but has increasingly become a form of self-expression and artistic innovation. Many young people in the country use hip-hop not just as a genre of music, but also a lifestyle. However, the genre is still underground, underdeveloped, and relatively small. It seems that it will keep going that way in the near future, with hip-hop in Lesotho being a subculture adopted by a part of the youth who will keep it alive. The hip-hop culture came to Namibia during the late 90s and early 2000s. Much like in many other African countries, the genre initially gained popularity among urban youth in cities like Windhoek, the capital, Swakopmund, and Katutura, influenced by the global rise of American rap and the growth of hip-hop culture in Africa. Local artists began to adapt and infuse their own cultural elements, including languages such as Afrikaans, Otjerero, Damara, Nama, and English into their lyrics. This blend of indigenous languages and global hip-hop influences helped form a distinctly Namibian style, and artists began to use the genre as a platform for addressing local issues such as poverty, unemployment, lack of education, identity, and more personal themes, creating a creative and diverse scene. The local scene was, like most of southern African countries, influenced by the waves coming from South Africa, and many Namibian artists adopted subgenres like Kwaito as well. Several artists have played a key role in shaping the hip-hop scene in Namibia, contributing to its growth and helping to establish the genre as a significant part of the country's music culture. We can name Lioness, one of the leading female rappers in Namibia, The Dog, a Kwaito hip-hop artist from the mid-2000s, Gaza, and many more. More than the music, hip-hop culture is well integrated with the Namibian youth, with a strong graffiti culture, hip-hop dance, events, and a great number of DJs. Many events also celebrate the culture as well as general music awards, which recognize the genre and give it an important place. Despite all that, hip-hop in Namibia is still relatively underground and suffers from a lack of renewal since the late 2010s. However, the future of hip-hop in Namibia looks promising. As the culture continues to resonate with Namibian youth, it is likely that the genre will grow both locally and globally. Increased collaborations with artists from neighboring countries like South Africa, as well as the rise of international exposure, will provide Namibian hip-hop with new opportunities. Hip-hop first emerged in South Africa during the mid-80s. Influenced by American culture, the South African youth adopted the codes of hip-hop in terms of aesthetics and lifestyle, and the music gained popularity by being played in clubs and social gatherings. Graffiti was also famous in urban areas such as Cape Town and Johannesburg. Also due to the social context of the country under the apartheid regime, the Zulu Nation, a major Pan-African hip-hop movement in the US, openly supported the ANC, who was symbol of revolution at the time, facilitating this exchange of cultures and the growth of hip-hop music and culture locally in SA. Early notable hip-hop crews from the 90s include the Cape Town's Prophet of the City and Black Noise, to name a few. After apartheid, hip-hop popularity increased in major cities such as Cape Town, Johannesburg and Durban, and many other notable crews saw the light of the day, such as the female crew Godessa. During the 90s, the Kwaito genre evolved as a subgenre of hip-hop at first, but quickly grew to become its own genre and gained popularity among the local youth and the one in the southern African region. The genre distinguished itself by its bouncy, low-tempo beat, the almost exclusive use of vernacular languages, and its positive and light message even when tackling serious matters. With the popularity of Kwaito during the 90s and early 2000s, more traditional hip-hop acts transitioned or reinvented their sounds. The country, who was reshaping itself in the post-apartheid era, opened the way to more international exposure, which also helped South African music to reach overseas and contributed to develop more influences for local creatives. Hip-hop, which had become a pillar among the country's urban culture, kept increasing in popularity, and the late 2000s to late 2010s marked an unprecedented growth of hip-hop in the country, considered by many as its golden age. The industry grew, and diverse events, festivals, and award ceremonies celebrated the culture, and many artists made an impact during that period, like Hip Hop Ponsula, known for heavily using Setswana, one of the country's local language, Casper Nyovest, one of the biggest names in South African hip-hop still active today. The artist who gained fame in the mid-2010s has had many milestones, notably by filling up the FNB Stadium of almost 95,000 seats in 2015, setting a record as the first South African artist to do so. The late AKA, known for his mainstream appeal and controversial personality, whose impact on the local scene was almost unprecedented. Nasty C, probably the most popular South African hip-hop artist to date, known for his international appeal and potential. We can also name KO, an artist respected for his lyricism, Nadia Nakai, probably the most accomplished female rapper of the last decade, and the late Ricky Rick, who was a major influence in South African hip-hop before his passing, known for his music and his promotion of the culture through fashion, his support to newer artists, and eventually Cotton Fest, the cultural festival he established. The South African hip-hop scene is rich in talent and is worth fully diving into. The culture and its industry are standard on the continent and have been for a while now. Despite losing ground in the late 2010s and early 2020s to other local genres such as drum and the cultural phenomenon Amapiano, hip-hop is still well and alive despite a lot of concern from local enthusiasts. From the underground regional scenes to the mainstream, everyday new hip-hop artists in South Africa emerge, bringing with them something new, keeping the genre in a constant evolution. South African hip-hop is said to continue its growth, both in terms of commercial success and cultural influence. The only challenge now might be to widen its reach on the continent, outside the Southern African region, and at large the Anglophone English communities. As despite hip-hop in South Africa doing relatively well compared to most African countries, its reach stays limited on the continent, and the international attempts have for the most part failed. However, as the scene continues to evolve, it is safe to say that South African hip-hop is on the right path to have a more important impact on the global scene.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this fine air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from it all.
But the world, you see, like, is a vast place.
You know, the continent, we've been able to do some dope stuff. You know?
Dans le rap africain, bien sûr, surtout.
There's the movement of hip-hop, R&B music, house music, all that coming out of not only South Africa, but the continent in general is just amazing right now.
I was surprised how big this scene is in Africa. I did a tour over there, and the DJ before me played so many hip hop records and so many Afrobeats, both that I never heard before, but had the club rocking. That is such a huge scene.
Tu sais, le hip-hop en tant que culture ou en tant que musique, si on parle du rap, dans une certaine partie du monde, aux États-Unis peut-être, les gens samplaient du funk, de la musique de chez eux, si tu veux. Nous, on a fait pareil avec les ingrédients de chez nous.
Regardless where you from, you know, it's where you at.
Comfortably sitting on my sofa, smoking, floating on this flat air, reflecting on the storm. So far, I'm so far from where I come from, so far from it.